Egan, and myself, Randy Iser. I will let you do your thing after I do my boilerplate. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means of access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. I'm hearing that nobody else is recording. Amy, do you want to open your meeting? Do you want to wait till it's...
I'll go ahead and open.
Okay.
All the Finance Committee meeting to order. Tonight is Paul Benjamin, Andy Kopacki, Peter Matusco, and myself, Amy Fine.
Okay, thank you. First up on the agenda this evening, item 2.1 is extended stay hotels joint meeting with the planning board. So I see Mr. Dwyer here. Are you the only representative so far, Bill? You're muted, unfortunately.
So far, Jim was planning on joining.
Okay, do we need him to start, or can you kind of fill us into where we're at with this, or however you want to do this?
Sure. I'm happy to start. The issue first came to view with the conversion of the Howard Johnson's motel or hotel into what's called an extended stay hotel, now known as the Residences. This happened as a result of the prior owner selling the property to a company that is controlled by Barry Roberts, for whatever that's worth. And we discovered that the model they were using was the extended stay model, and they were advertising on UMass off-campus housing, among other things. This is the prior ownership, not the current ownership. So we decided to take a look at it. Hadley has what's called permissive zoning, which is less permissive than it might sound. Permissive zoning says if the bylaw doesn't specifically allow something, then it is prohibited. We do allow hotels in the zoning bylaw, and we have hosted multiples. At the same time, we don't have an effective definition of hotel in the zoning bylaw. So putting all those together, the planning board discussed it. We brought in the ZBA, and we posed a question to town council on how to proceed from here. And Jim Maximowski and I from the planning board and Andrew Bombardier from the ZBA had a teleconference with town council this afternoon. And what we think we've worked out is a plan forward that the residences will ask the ZBA to conduct a review as to whether the residence qualifies for what's called a finding, a determination that this is an extension of a pre-existing non-conforming use. So there will be a public meeting at some point, and the owners will be able to make their presentation. There will be an opportunity for public comment, and the ZBA will render its vote, which in turn will be subject to challenge if anyone doesn't like it. So that's about where we stand now. The current bylaw does not authorize apartments, and while it's true that the extended stay rooms have many of the same features as an apartment. We've checked with the building department, and they clearly do not meet the building code definition of an apartment. They don't have permanent food preparation fixtures. They don't have permanent kitchen sink type fixtures. So it's a hybrid animal, but it is something new and something we're taking a look at. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Jim?
No, you pretty much got it covered.
Okay, so we're waiting for the current owner to file with the zoning board, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do we have any idea when that might happen? I'm sure there's people who would like to know that, and I'm sure you can't tell me tonight.
I can't, because we do not set the agenda for the ZBA. They meet on an on-demand basis. Andrew mentioned maybe something in November.
Do you have floor plans?
No.
We do not. We do not, when we're doing site plan approval, we do not routinely look at the interior design of a project. We look at the exterior design, how the project is going to fit in with its neighbors. Is it going to cause drainage problems? Is it going to look like the structures around it? So we don't usually concern ourselves with the interior layout.
Okay. No, I was just curious because I've actually stayed in extended stay hotels for 3 months. And when I lived there because my company moved me up there to cover for a woman who was on maternity leave. And she kept extending it. And so I thought it was great. I thought it was a less expensive way to stay for an extended period of time that cost my company less money. And it was definitely more comfortable for someone who wasn't expecting to stay for so long. So I was just curious because it had a sink and it had like a microwave and a full fridge. And I did have like a hot plate too, if I wanted to cook. So yeah, no, it was really, it was great. It was perfect.
So it's definitely a business model, and there are a couple of other hotels in Hadley that are, we'll call them more hotel-y, in that they are part of branded chains, but do cater to the extended stay market. But again, they don't have all of the features that would define a living unit under the building code.
Understandable.
Jane?
What happens with the room tax when you have an extended stay motel or hotel?
That can be negotiated with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator as to how you wish to address that. Technically, after, I'm not sure if it's 30 days or what the time frame is, that they do not collect it. However, this particular company has said they're willing to negotiate on that. So that's something to be negotiated with the select board and the town administrator.
That really is a question that probably has to go to town council. My understanding was based on when the Econo Lodge was rented out to UMass as overflow dormitory space, was that after 90 days of continuous occupancy, room tax was no longer collected. But I don't know if that is what happens when someone comes in for 3 months or 2 months and then leaves for a week and resumes. So it's a little outside of our area, but there is an issue with room tax, but it's been represented to us that the Howard Johnson's in particular was not generating a lot of room tax, which is probably, and I'm not speaking, I have no inside knowledge, but it's probably one of the reasons that the owner decided to divest.
Jane, just for your edification, I have been in contact several times with our town councils. Lisa has assigned Steve Chaplin to handle this, and we did discuss that specifically. Mr. Roberts, as well as Attorney Reedy, who's representing him, I've actually spoken to both. They are certainly in favor of ensuring that the town is not in want when it comes to what revenue they were bringing in versus what they could bring in. And it is something that we will be, I don't want to say negotiating. I know that Bill was being very careful about how he worded things. There's a lot that we have to talk about with both councils, but we're certainly working towards making sure that the town doesn't lose that revenue that it was getting.
Okay, thank you.
So I was gonna say, when I lived at the Grand Stay, I couldn't book for more than a month. So when I knew I had to be there for a month and 2 weeks, I had to do 2 separate reservations with them. So I don't know if that would be something. Yeah.
So what's to stop, since we don't allow apartments, what's to stop all the other hotels down Route 9 from saying, okay, we're gonna go the extended stay model, and we don't have permanent cooking fixtures, but we're just gonna call ourselves an extended stay hotel and people can book here indefinitely? And are we opening a can of worms where every hotel is gonna be apartments but not call themselves apartments?
Well, I was just gonna add on, so question, Jim, is now that you know, we know there's this loophole or lack of specificity in the current zoning. Is that something that your committee is going to take up fairly quickly to address the question that David was just asking?
We certainly have to take a look at that. And that's something we're going to discuss with town council on how we can word that. Yes.
To your point, David, if you take a look at the current rates for the various hotels, I don't have it in front of me, but the last time I looked, the brand name hotels are charging more than twice what the residence is charging. And as long as they're making money, I would suspect that there's no business reason for them to go into the cut rate apartment business.
So I'm thinking about this finding situation versus a variance. If they were to go, and I'm asking a question. If they go the finding route, is there a way to negotiate during that process, or is that just a simple yes or no situation?
That is probably something that should be finalized before the finding is voted on. So that they kind of come together at the same time.
Yep. Again, I would defer to town council and to the ZBA on that question.
Okay, thank you. Anybody on the select board have anything? Finance committee, any questions?
No, just the precedent. You know, I'm concerned about the precedent and the effect it could have on other hotels or other properties that would take advantage of this loophole. I mean, we have a lot of buildings that might be underperforming for certain types of uses today that could convert to something like this. And, you know, the question is, if we're not going to get room tax, you know, where we need the revenue.
Yeah, for sure. Understood.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll get you in a minute, Mike. Go ahead, Amy.
So right now we have the extended stay next to Aldi's. I believe that's the extended stay.
Is one of them, yes.
And I believe they pay the hotel tax. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. So my thinking was this place could pay the hotel tax. if they were also similar to that place. But the only issue is they have a deed restriction saying it's not hotel. Can the buyer ask the seller to remove the deed restriction, let it continue to be an extended stay, code it as a hotel and continue with the tax?
They could, but I doubt that they would be willing to do that at this point in time. But I think that based on what everybody's saying, that if we negotiate with the current owner and they're going to sign some kind of document that says we will pay whatever they work out with the town. So I don't think it'll be an issue.
I haven't looked at the deed restriction specifically, but my understanding is the deed restriction imposed on this property as opposed to the Econo Lodge, but the Howard Johnson's deed restriction is that it not be used for rental of rooms for less than 30 days. So no short-term rentals. The Econo Lodge deed restriction said basically they would not be able to be in the hotel business at all.
Randy, one more point.
Sure.
It sounded like they were also offering to make sure that we would get the same revenue that we were getting from what might have been an underperforming hotel in the first place. Is that the goal, just to get what we had, or what the potential of the whole property would have been had it been, it's an older hotel. If it had been rebuilt and renovated like we've seen other hotels in town that now are, providing us with a lot more revenue than they did previously. I'd hate to see us capping at, we'll give you what you had before, so you're not at loss there. When in fact, we maybe should be getting the whole tax on everything.
Yeah, I would assume that the town would negotiate to get as much as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, based on my conversations with Attorney Reedy, they're certainly open to talking about it. They want to work with the town. They want this project to succeed. So I'm sure everything's on the table.
Sure.
Chief.
Thank you.
I just also request of the legal counsel just to ensure that we're not assuming any liability. This is potentially could be a change of use. We have not had an opportunity to review the status of the hotel yet. Myself and Tyler are looking to get in there. The front of the building is a sprinkler section. However, the rear of the building is not. So with this change of use, potentially, there could be sprinkler requirements. I know he's willing to do that, but are we incurring liability now because it's no longer a hotel? I'm just requesting that and check that.
Okay, understood. I'm sure the town administrator heard that. We'll get right on it. Okay, any other questions?
I would just add in as to that whatever comes out of planning and ZBA is a zoning determination that does not supersede any other applicable law. We do not supersede the building code. We do not supersede the fire code, the sanitary code. We're just saying as a zoning proposition, it could be an allowable use if the ZBA so decides.
And does the planning board anticipate working with the ZBA on this, or are you just gonna pass it on to them and let them deal with their part of it? Meaning we go to their meetings.
Typically, we stay out of their playpen, we stay out of each other's playpen. So it's probably not a good idea for us to collaborate unless somebody really requests information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see anybody else wanting to talk about this, so thank you, gentlemen. Pardon? Oh, sorry, one more. Tony? Sure.
Sign.
Tony Fighting Cold Spring Lane. I brought this up a few months ago when this came out. My concerns are over the process that we're looking at here, and it's kind of troubling in the way that this whole thing has rolled out. The way it looks, these are apartments. He's advertising as what looks like student apartments. So we're talking about, and clearly it's different from the extended stays. That's why we're talking about it. If this was another extended stay hotel, we wouldn't really be talking about it like this. These are student apartments that he's trying to get in. And what bothers me is that the previous owner same owner as who previously owned the O'Connell Lodge. Just like the O'Connell Lodge, he ran that hotel into the ground, so it was only suitable as a homeless shelter. It's not really usable as a hotel anymore. Now he's dumping it. Once again, he's putting a deed restriction, which really hurts the town. And I don't know, we allowed the one on the O'Connell Lodge, and I think these two issues are very similar. So I'm going to be talking about both. We allowed the one in the O'Connell Lodge. That really hurt us. This one will hurt us as well. And we're talking about trying to recoup some of the hotel taxes. And again, I don't think we're getting much in hotel taxes because it's such a dump for so long. I don't think we're getting very much. If we're trying to get, as someone mentioned, are we trying to get back to that level or at another level? We're talking about negotiation. What bothers me is that the previous owner sold it. They stuck a deed restriction on it, and then they're moving on. The new owner, he immediately starts advertising. He's not concerned. For some reason that baffles me, he pays $5 million for a hotel that is clearly has issues with our bylaws. But for some reason, it's not concerned about that. He starts advertising and he puts a deed restriction on. So to me, as a resident, it kind of bothers me that our bylaws are apparently a joke to developers. He bought this place and he's moving on. He's not concerned that we're going to stop him. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. And now we're in a situation where, once again, as we were with the O'Connell Lodge, it apparently can no longer be used as a hotel because of that deed restriction. So they're kind of using that against us, as was the case with the O'Connell Lodge. That was weaponized as a way to say, hey, you might as well go along with this because it can't be a hotel again. We're in the same situation here. I don't think that's right. And since this came out, it seems like select board, planning board, they're more than willing to kind of go along with it and just say, oh, we can work this out. We have bylaws for a reason. We don't have apartments. And if you're going to start parsing what a hotel is and different things, why are we even bothering with this? Why don't we just say, no, we don't have apartments? That's kind of the rule. And it's not our problem if he's, we did something with his money that was, irresponsible. Why don't we just stick to our rules and say, we don't have to necessarily bend over backwards to work with a developer that does not even really seem to respect our bylaws and what's going on here. The other thing is, and I'll be brief, Randy. The deed restriction can be challenged. If there's a deed restriction can be challenged if there's an issue with the town, but for the public good, we could challenge that. We could also challenge the one at the O'Connell Lodge. Obviously, we didn't do that, and there are issues with that as well. So this seems like another case where the residents of the town, the citizens, are just kind of being rolled over. This is being done. The developer, he came up with a plan. He's moving on. No concerns at all about our bylaws. Planning board, select board, everybody's kind of going to work it out. Where are we? Where are our bylaws? So my final point is, once again, if people on this board, on the select board or the planning board, if you want to change the zoning, bring it up, have the courage to bring it up to the town, say, this is what we want to do. We want this kind of density. We want apartments, and let's have that conversation. But it seems like, once again, it's going in the back door. We have nothing to say about it. And I'm really not very pleased about it once again. So
Thank you. Keep your eyes on the calendar when the zoning board hearing is happening. Please attend.
We went to the zoning board with the O'Connell Lodge. We're good with that too, because you guys, that doesn't matter, right?
Point of clarification on the Econo Lodge.
Yes, sir.
ZBA, the town did not approve the Econo Lodge. ZBA turned their petition down to turn it into affordable housing. We were sued in court and we lost, and the court overruled the ZBA.
No, we didn't fight it. We didn't fight it,
Didn't
Jim.
fight it.
The select board,
All right, that's not pertinent to what we're talking about.
I think it's important to be accurate. Did you fight
I
it?
understand, but let's not get
You can
into
answer
it
the question,
right
Jim.
now.
I mean, for Jim, could you answer the question? Did the select board choose not to fight that?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else?
So this will come up like at the zoning board next.
Yeah. Probably in November, Bill said.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right, item 2.2, we're going to skip over. That's public forum for 7 o'clock. Go to item 3.1, the consent agenda. This evening on the consent agenda, we have minutes from July 2nd, July 16th, July 29th, and July 31st, 2025. CPA, First Congregational Church of Hadley Historical Deed Restriction, and then a one-day liquor license request from the top of the campus, UMass Mullins Center Parents Weekend, October 17th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Amy. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next up, item 4.1, public comments. Anybody here for public comments? Okay, we have none. Well, business, item 5.1, by board meeting, communication meeting. Before we start this discussion, I have something I would like to say. We are having this discussion because of the fallout from the 9/24/25 Finance Committee meeting. That meeting was a Finance Committee meeting with which the Select Board attended. It was not a typical by-board meeting. We were there to observe and participate if appropriate. The Select Board, particularly the chair, had no leadership authority at that meeting. I want to set the record straight. This was nothing other than all members of the Select Board wanting to attend this meeting. The Select Board members attended because we wanted to be involved in the conversation about how to deal with the override if it failed at the ballot. At the 10-1 by-board meeting, the Select Board was chastised by two members of the Finance Committee during public comment who believed that their committee was ambushed, attacked, and bullied, among other things. The belief was that the Select Board was there to intimidate. The word trap was used, and that our attendance was a political stunt. Nothing could be further from the truth. We respected the fact that this was not a Select Board meeting. The chair of the Finance Committee was in charge of the meeting. I asked for permission from the chair when I wished to speak. David Phil wanted to make a motion, but was told it was not appropriate because it was a FinCom meeting, not a Select Board meeting. The Select Board had no authority at this meeting. If we did, I would not have allowed Mr. Parmar to behave the way he did. The contentious issues at that meeting were between Finance Committee members. No member of the Select Board took part in that. The most disturbing thing to me about this issue is that nobody from the Finance Committee bothered to ask anyone from the Select Board or the Town Administrator's Office about why this meeting was posted as it was. Assumptions were made and accusations were thrown. This town is currently very divided due to our financial situation. We don't need further divide because of the appearance that our two boards can't work together. I have said this multiple times. If you are not certain about something, have the guts to ask questions. Assuming something and running with it causes problems that are very difficult, if not impossible, to correct. A letter to the editor was written, essentially blaming the Select Board for the way the 9/24/25 meeting was run. Again, if appropriate, I would not have allowed the meeting to get out of control. I want to apologize for the way the meeting was posted without making the Finance Committee aware that members of the Select Board would be in attendance and that we had to post it as a meeting because there was the possibility that a majority of the Select Board would be there, and that would have been an open meeting violation. We will not let this happen again. I understand the Finance Committee's concerns about being left out of the loop. I cannot understand how that turned into the thought that the Select Board was there to undermine the Finance Committee. I hope we can put this behind us and move forward, working together to get our town back to financial stability. Thank you. With that, we will move on to our discussion about communication. So, who wants to start this? Anybody on either the Select Board or the Finance Committee have something to offer to help us move forward?
I'll just say that I think that it's been a while since we had the habit of doing bi-boards and tri-board meetings. And I think with our current financial situation, I think at least a once a month bi-board meeting, even if schedule it, if we have nothing to talk about, we'll, finance will let us know, we can pass over it. But I think at least keeping that line of communication open would be good. So that way people aren't feeling like we're not communicating with them.
We used to do the first meeting of every month was either a bi or a tri-board meeting.
And we had talked about in the past, the select board would host one meeting, the next meeting would be hosted by the finance committee, and I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't imagine any of you do. Anybody here have an issue with that?
Nope.
I think we all want to work together and get through not only our current situation, but the future, whatever the future brings us. So whatever we come up with, we can try to make it a policy, a habit, whatever you want to call it. As David said, every month, every whatever, we get together, and whether we need it or not. And then if we do need it, we certainly will make it known that we want everybody together, and everybody will be notified ahead of time.
I think that, I agree with the bi-board and set it up as a more regular. I do think that, what we need to do is figure out a way to, I know during budget season, we do this where we will, talk about what's coming up on the budget in the bi-board, but during off season, we also have to figure out a time to discuss monies that are going on during the year, if changes are being made, and we have to figure out a way to do that as well. The other thing is when we have the warrant, we need to get it as soon as possible, and then we need to just have time to discuss it. You need to have time to discuss it, and then we have to have our votes in. So yes, we need to just be more regular, have more time allowed for discussion. And we need to have a little bit better communication. And a lot of the stuff is decisions that are being made, and that's fine, but we need to figure out a way that in which we can communicate throughout the year. Budget time is fine because we're all on the same page, but when we're not doing the actual budget in the spring, how are we going to communicate?
Well, if we have the one meeting a month set aside, then
Okay.
Are you guys are you meeting every month at a minimum all year?
Well, it's been on and off. It's when we get information. So if we are going to be doing it, if you can bring it, we weren't meeting that much during the summer because we had no other information to go with.
Sure.
If we have information as soon as you finish a negotiation, we need to have that brought to us so we could then take account for the monies being spent.
Okay. And then to get back to the warrant, that typically is, we get it relatively late. And I know that the previous town administrator didn't want to get it out until it was 99% done. And I didn't agree with that. I wouldn't agree with it now. As soon as we have something to start, as long as everybody understands that it's
A draft.
a draft, then I don't think that if we get it to everybody as soon as we have the first draft, that would be helpful.
It's very hard to get, so that's why I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get all our votes in tonight, because we only had the one look at it. We had questions, so there still might be more questions. So we need more time to review.
yeah, and I think, that's certainly should always be the goal. But I also just hope people are allowing for the amount of time and effort that the same people who have to put the warrant together have been spending on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the final number.
Yeah.
Because numbers, we're still working on it to get the exact final number. But if we have the topic to be discussing, would be good.
Anybody else have anything to say on this? Well, good? I'm good. Okay. All right. Then we'll move on to item 5.2, FY 26 budget. And I think we have a budget expert here to help us.
So part of this discussion is to go over the budget, which we are going to be discussing at the forum in just a few minutes. And the other part of it is to have a little bit of a deeper discussion with the fire chief. And to discuss the impacts of any of the vacant position cuts as well as potential layoffs for the fire department and the staffing plan that Mike is going to talk about tonight. Everybody has the budget that we went over at the last meeting, which shows all of the cuts that we made. Just quickly going over it again. There were 5 position cuts made around town to vacancies. And the reason that we targeted vacancies, I know we've said that, I apologize, we've said this numerous times, but the reason vacancies were targeted was to not have to worry about incurring unemployment costs to them. So the net gain towards the deficit was attained quicker. And the fire department situation, again, we've gone over that numerous times as well. The fire chief will go over what money he has left in his budget and what plans he has to finish out FY 26. Everything that we're going to talk about tonight right now and at the forum is going to be focused on FY 26 to close out FY 26 at the special fall town meeting. FY 27 without new forms of revenue is going to be a whole different ball game. And the thought of these board meetings being once a month might not be enough with the amount of work that we're going to have to do to fix this situation again without new revenue. So I don't know that you want to double up the work. What you're going to hear, I don't know if we want Linda to go over this now because we're going to be going over it again in an hour, or if you would prefer to have Mike come up and talk about just the fire department side of things. You've already heard where all the other reductions are going to be made. I guess it's up to the chair of both boards.
What do you want to do, Amy? Do you want to go through this so you guys, if you have any questions, you can get them answered now rather than till the forum?
Yeah,
Okay, so we want to go through it now so that if there are any questions, we can get them answered before we have to deal with it in the forum.
Okay.
oh, good.
You loosened it.
So I didn't hear it. We're going to.
Yeah, they want to go through it so that they can kind of formulate the questions.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure how much to go into because I know we did go over this on October 1st. There has been no changes to the budget since I went through it on October 1st. Except that finance chair had asked me to break out in the case where the changes in salary lines in certain departments had been cut by a net amount. They wanted to see how much, what made up that net amount because a number of the salary of departmental salaries had increases, and then we had a position cut. And so I itemized what the increase, the raises were, and then what the value of the position is that was cut. So the ones, the departments that relates to, select board, human services, human resources. I mean, so, and I think this was sent out to you. Again, I'm just not sure how much to go into, but the other departments that relates to are inspections and highway, dispatch. Yeah, so in order to accommodate the increase in $376,000 to the health insurance, it involved, and also there was, so as a summary of the entire budget, we had to find where to cut 376,000 so that we could handle the 20% increase or the 18% increase in the health insurance. In addition to that, there were a few vendor increases, insurance increases since we voted in May, and that's normal. We usually do small raises to accommodate new contracts. So in order to accommodate all of that, we had to cut 5 positions for a total of 248,815 that were in the budget. That does not include the 4 EMS positions that were not in the budget that was voted in May. They were in the budget that was proposed at the last special town meeting, but that was not approved by the town. So the way this budget was approached was exactly what had been said at the forums, which is recognize that we would not be funding the EMS positions to the extent that they had been funded through stabilization funds in the past and free cash. And we would move other budgets aside in order to accommodate the insurance increase. One other new thing is that one other cut is that we made an additional $200,000 cut to the school department. And that pretty much covers it in summary. Is there a specific department or are there specific things that anyone has questions about?
Go ahead, Amy, if you got questions, ask away.
Okay. So I wasn't sure on some of them. I did notice that there was redistribute the raises from the select board line. And I was trying to get a grasp on that. I know when we had calculated, it looks like somewhere at 7%, somewhere at 4%. I couldn't really, somewhere at 5%.
Sort of market adjustments, right?
So it wasn't easy to calculate or try to figure out. Usually if there is a raise or a 3%, cost COLA or something, you can kind of calculate that, but this was there was a big difference between several of them.
Because they were, remember the compensation study?
Yeah, but the compensation study had already taken place. This isn't including the compensation study. My understanding, the compensation study was up when we did it. I felt like that was already done in the spring, that we already had that in there.
The rate increases applied to individuals. You don't take the salary from the year before and add a certain percentage on. The individuals who are in the positions who may or may not be the same people or paid at the same rate as the year before. It's not going to work out that in that way. What we do is Lauren, our HR director, goes through each of the positions and supplies the raise. There's a range. It's an average, I think, was about 3%. Some were union contract, but most were by the comp study. And that was it. So no, it's not some were 3 or some were 5 or whatever, because I think that what I heard from finance committee member, you're taking the salary line for the year before and you're sort of extrapolating, and that's just not how we do it. The individuals have been calculated and added up again and put in the new budget.
So I know at one point, we moved the 67,000 from the, I did have a question, the 67 coming out of the select board. I was going back to try to find where the 370 in salaries came from. I went back to my budget book. I did see that we had set aside 180,000 in that for raises. My question being, we moved 67, where would the balance of the 180 that we had set aside for raises? Are we expecting more, or is this everybody for the rest of the year for raises, or is there more to come?
That's all. All the contracts have been ratified, and until next July 1. Everybody should be where they're supposed to be for the rest of the year.
Remember, we have a number of vacant positions, and that would have also taken up a good chunk of additional funding out of that line. The reason we had 180,000 set aside last year was because in past years that increase would hit at the special town meeting as an out of budget surprise increase, as has been said in the past. And so this year, efforts were made to better anticipate what that raise would be, not knowing it exactly at the time. And so I think that was a pretty good estimate based on all of the individuals who are on board and the union contracts that were currently under negotiation, and plus some various individual ones, such as the town administrator position, had that been filled at who knows what rate. So I mean, that was an effort was made to put that amount into a single line so that it would not result in a budget increase at the special town meeting. And I think that worked out pretty well. And whether there will be more or not during the year, we can't fully say. There's no across the board increase, either due to the compensation study or union contracts that is expected. However, when positions are vacated and then filled again, and this would be the positions that are needed to be filled again, and as you all decided, these would be coming to the select board and finance committee. But if such a position was to be filled, again, for example, the town administrator position, and it was agreed, where would that money come from? So this is the line that we have typically used probably for 5 years now, and it rolls back in when not used, but when it is used, it's extremely important to provide a way of allowing the town to continue on and fill positions appropriately along the way as we during the year, without having to go back to the town or back to finance committee for additional funds. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, did I go off on another? Does that?
I do. It answer. I mean, yes and no. It does, but I do see that there is a difference. I am concerned about. And I'm still unsure of what this means for the fire department. How many are we looking to lay out this year to balance the budget? And that is a concern of mine because they are very thin as it is. So I'm going to go listen to what the fire chief has to say, but it is a big concern. It was a concern even for me, I didn't like leaving it out there because it was a concern back in when we did the annual town meeting. I did not like it being out there with the fire department. To me, a lot of this is all on that one department, and I feel like this is taking the burden on all this. So, I mean, yes, the town wrapped up the 376, but we never had in there a lot of the fire department. We had pulled it out, and it was, I wanted to get them back in, which we all talked about getting them back into our budget. We didn't have enough money at the time, and we did not want to take out a stabilization. So that is why they ended up being left out there until we decided on this meeting what we were going to do. Now, I do have a question. When we did do the increases for, I saw the police and the fire, they both were at 0. I know the police were done in the spring, but I don't see any raises in there for the fire department. Were they done in the spring as well? Were they already negotiated in the spring as well? So were they increased in their line items early on, or
They were.
should we have put something in there for?
They were.
Sky.
They were.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
Can I just go back really quick to what you were asking before, Amy?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it sounds like we all want to make sure that the fire department doesn't get cut, but it also sounds like we're all in agreement that there's no money to do that. I mean, I'm confused as to what you'd like from Linda and I when it comes to the fire department, because again, this isn't new information. We've been talking about this for months now. I need to know what you'd like to see from us. Where do you want the money to come from?
Well, first we have to figure out exactly how much we're looking at, once I listen to the fire chief, to know that number. And I was looking at on some of them, I did see in the select board that we didn't use up the whole 180 out of. And then I know we have to leave some, I mean, that was just a little bit in there. Also, I saw this, I know that the COA director and some of these other positions that were vacant are vacant. And yes, it's just kicking the can. I realize that. 27 is going to be much harder, and we're gonna all departments, but I just, when we're laying off, they've already taken a hit on both their, a supervisor and a firefighter. So there's already 2 down. I don't want to destroy the whole department.
I think we're all in agreement on that. I just, you mentioned the COA director and Linda mentioned the TA. The reasoning behind those situations is that if the people who are doing those jobs currently decide that they don't want to do those jobs anymore, you still need, those are key positions that you need to fill, which means you need the funding there to do it. And so if you take that money and move it elsewhere, the funding isn't there to do that. So again, we've been talking about this all along, and do we go out and find other positions to lay off people to save fire department positions? And that was not the will of anyone here. I did not hear that suggestion at all. Otherwise, that would have been our directive to do. Again, I need to know what you'd like from us.
Jay,
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that the select board recognized as a whole that what we had anticipated was going to happen with the ambulance and the fire department was not happening. And we had been using stabilization and free cash to fund this, and we needed to move it into its own budget line because there was no more free cash and there was no stabilization to keep maintaining it. So that's why we cut it and said, this has got to stop. And so that's why we were asking, in part, that was one specific item on the override that was being voted on because there was no money in the budget. And if there's no money in the budget, funding positions is kind of difficult.
Can I just ask that the people way down there talking to the mics, because we're having trouble hearing. Yeah.
would you like a repeat of that?
No, I kind of picked up the gist of it. But yeah, I'm just moving forward. It's been a little hard to hear.
Okay.
We turned ours around to try and cut down any background noise here. Rusty.
I have a question.
Sure.
When I'm looking at this, it just seems the positions that were open weren't filled and we're using those salaries. And cause all it just says is cut a full-time position, more or less, it was open and you didn't fill it. And that the first ones that says that they're not funding was the 4 EMS. I was one of the few that did say about layoffs and presented that to the select board, and all of you said no. So it was presented or brought up to say, how about doing some layoffs? So to say that, it wasn't brought up to making that decision, it was. I did bring that up. What was brought up is saying is the cost that the town would have to pay was for the unemployment, which I understand. But you can't say that laying off was never brought up to the table, because it was.
Peter, I recall you saying that. Yeah, I definitely remember you saying that. And I also recall you talked about essential and non-essential personnel in that same part of the conversation.
Right, and I know that Mike was saying, do you have someone that's higher at an $80,000 salary is equal to two $40,000 salaries? That I absolutely understand, but it was brought to the table, and I know that the select board was reluctant to doing any kind of layoffs and was more or less going for using the salaries that were not filled to helping balancing the budget, but also cutting the 4 EMS positions that making sure they weren't funded. So I'm just making a statement that it was brought up, but those did not want to go about and doing layoffs.
But I think, you know,
I may have misspoke, Peter. I didn't mean that layoffs weren't suggested. I absolutely know that they were, and I know that you made that suggestion very early on. What I meant to say, or if I didn't say it clearly enough, was the swapping of layoffs was not decided by anyone, meaning in order to save firefighter positions, were we going to then go out and find funded positions and lay those people off instead? That wasn't something that that anyone gave us the directive to move towards. No one told us to do that. That's what I meant. I didn't mean layoffs. I know you suggested that very, so.
So, and one of the things that Amy, you brought up, but elsewhere, save the firefighters. Thank you. We do also have to remember that at Springtown meeting.
Talk into the mic, David.
At Springtown meeting, we presented to town meeting the fact that these positions are not currently funded. We're not going back into stabilization, and if an override does not pass, this is the situation we are looking at. The town meeting attendees approved that budget at that time based on the information they were given. So to then go back and say, you know what, we want to save this position, instead we're going to wipe out the senior center, we're going to wipe out the library, or we're going to have no plow trucks at the DPW this year because we now feel, despite what was voted on at town meeting, that these positions are more appropriate, I think is an issue. Because the voters approved the budget, the funding, and all of that, knowing that these positions are not currently covered.
So having an override.
yeah, and I echo what David said, and I guess I just want to ask, I mean, again, we're reiterating, I don't think anybody up here feels good at all about where we're at. I'm absolutely not in favor of, I think, I feel very strongly we should have, this town should fund a 24/7 fire department. But that said, I can sit here and say it, but I don't have another solution. And I just want to ask, I know, Amy, you've got strong feelings, but is there something specific in here that you feel we should be taking a look at that we're not? I mean, have you identified specific positions that you would rather see? Have you, well, I think that's what Mike's looking for, and Linda, is there some other direction?
Well, I'll just say it's tough to, when I see the fire department, and they are spread thin, and there's only one or two, there's only 2 on at a time, and they are spread thin. And we've had some people on there, and we're laying off some people that have been with us for a little while. And we do have a little bit larger of a police department, but we have 5 out, and we still are maintaining a good level. To have 3 newbies just being trained, but we're going to let 3 existing people go, I almost feel like that should be swapped, where we don't do the 3 new training police officers. But yeah, that was I just came right out and said that when I have existing people and a smaller department versus a larger department. Now, there's a lot more to it, but that was just in my head what I started, my personal feelings. That's all.
What do you mean when you say maintaining?
Well, because I think that the three, I know you can probably speak to it better than me, but
Yeah.
it's my understanding that the three people that are in the academy were budgeted for and covered. And then there are people that are currently covering for them right now, but those people are not doing their jobs. Plus, I will say that in 2014, the police department had almost 18,000 calls versus the fire department's 2,000. But if you want to add anything else to
No,
that.
That's great. I'm sorry, I
2024.
don't know what it means that we're maintaining. We're not. We're struggling. We're trying to cover for people to keep the overtime low, which has been my mission since I got hired as the chief of police. We are not doing the things that we used to be doing. We don't have school resource officers in the school anymore because they're wearing a patrol uniform. The administrative staff who is supposed to be trying to get us into accreditation and certification are wearing patrol uniforms driving around to keep the overtime down. We are holding on for dear life until we get those 3 officers back from training. It costs twice as much, if not more, to train them because it takes almost a year from hiring a police officer to get them on the road so that they can cover patrols. We take the longest to get someone trained and certified to be a police officer now. So we're not maintaining. We are doing everything possible just to keep the overtime down. And again, to Amy's point, there's a reason that we have that many police officers. It's because we have 18 to 20,000 calls and it goes up every single year, just like the fire department. I don't think anyone wants to do what's happening right now. The only good thing is that I don't think we have to cut as deep as originally thought, and certainly not what's being reported in the news. As far as the fire department goes, it is not a good thing. It's not where we want to be, but I've talked with the fire chief and I believe he has a good plan to move forward. But again, I appreciate your thoughts, Amy. Like, I know you want to save the fire department, but at the same time, I think we have to recognize the difference between putting safeguards in place to keep the overtime low and being able to continue to be effective at policing our community. I think there's a major difference there. And again, this is something that literally on my first town meeting after being hired as a police chief, they were writing newspaper articles about I have it on my wall in my office. It says Hadley's overtime trap. And it was a whole article about how our overtime was hundreds of thousands of dollars over what the budgeted amount was. I've been the chief for over 10 years now, and the overtime request that we made in this past year is only a handful of thousands of dollars more than when I took over, with 7 more police officers because of the safeguards that we put in place. It's not about being able to do our jobs. It's about putting those things in place for when the worst happens and we have people out, and being able to keep the overtime at a manageable level so that we're not a burden to the tax base. That's the best I can answer that.
Maybe we should go on with the fire chief.
So,
Yeah, we're gonna cut it short here so we can get Mike up here, but go ahead, David.
so this is a question for Lauren probably, and maybe both chiefs. Both of your departments, you pay stipends to various individuals for various tasks, correct? I know, chief, you do, and
We don't.
you don't pay any stipends?
They have one for a dispatch position. Yeah, we have one for a dispatch position, but we're not, fire departments are big with the stipends.
All right, so then let me rephrase. I know some town hall employees have stipends for various other activities that they do, insurance.
Yeah.
They can't hear you down here.
I know town hall has some stipends for various activities, insurance, et cetera. Chief, when you do your stipends, it says it pays out in July for FY26. So for FY26, it paid in July of last year. Is that correct?
You know, And the stipends, just so you're aware, it's for them to actually to maintain, it's for them to maintain their EMTs, their basic and their night, so it's going to take that rather than up their time.
Mike, come on,
Stipend.
come on up, because you're gonna be on the hot seat pretty quick.
Yeah, so the state stipends were paid out already.
Yeah.
So that's factored into it.
Okay.
But those stipends are for them to maintain their EMT certification.
So CEUs, that kind of stuff.
Correct. So that we're not, they don't get paid for their time or anything. That's all part of that.
Okay. And then for town hall, do we pay stipends in advance? Do we pay it after the fact or throughout the year? How do we typically?
The July or December, is usually how it works. To really dispute by most of Brown the compensation study.
Okay.
There's a couple one-offs like registrar stipend about something that we pay out monthly. Because of parent stipend, that's for the third. Or so really, any stipend we try to do an additional role, kind of like Joe, my office, doing additional.
Okay.
Everything else was wrapped in, trying to minimize that.
And the only reason that chief on, for example, if you have somebody making $12,500 for a stipend, and let's just say that that person left now to go to a different job. I'm assuming that stipends already been paid out, so they take that with them, or is it prorated paid back?
The reason why you're seeing 12,500, that was part of them being hired prior to the union being formed. So the ALS incentive that we have in the union contract now, that was part of the incentive in hiring them, was that we were going to reimburse them because they had paid personally for they didn't come from another department. So we were paying them back that what they had put into that up to the $12,000.
Okay.
So that will be the last year you see that with those two gentlemen. They would be dropping down to the paramedic stipend.
All right, so then is the paramedic stipend the $6,500?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you factor the number of hours it takes for them to get recertified, it's significant.
Yes, and I'm not questioning that. What I'm just questioning if somebody, because let's face it, fire department, DPW, where they pay stipends for various things, for having licenses and whatever else. People come and go throughout the year. So is there a way that we can prorate that or pay half it, midway through the year and the rest at the end of the year? So that way when an employee says, all right, I found another job, I'm going somewhere, we're not out that money.
There's actually language in the contract for that.
Okay.
So if they are receiving an ALS incentive, then they have to either stay and remain with us, or there's a payout option for them to pay us back.
Okay.
And basically it's the same thing for them going through the fire academy as well.
Okay.
So if we train them and then they just decide that they're not going to stay with us, they have to basically pay back a portion of that.
Okay. Thank you.
So the annual stipends that they receive, I don't believe those are prorated, maybe. So, I don't believe that.
Those are not prorated. It's the ALS incentive portion.
Okay, we need to stop so you can talk to us about your budget, because you've got 18 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Right, thank you for having me. First of all, I just wanted to make a couple corrections for everybody's awareness at home, but we keep saying EMS budget, and this is the fire department that happens to have EMTs. It's a fire EMS budget. So I just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. I'll be going into the different models, but I completely understand the override failed and where we're at. I understand we're in unprecedented times with this insurance, these insurance costs and everything. I just want to emphasize that the budget cuts, Chief Mason and I were talking today about the 3 initial cuts out of our expense lines, never mind the salaries that DPW, police, fire, other departments had to deal with. And then again, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that I understand we made the decision not to fund the EMS portion of the fire department because it was being funded out of either stabilization or free cash since 2024, FY24. Again, I put together very accurate, very real budgets for that, but it's not my function as the fire chief to decide, the mechanism of how you're funding it. So I understand that that was not approved. It's just really, it's obviously, you can feel the frustration from our members and from myself that we've spent a lot of time building this department, and it's just to see it all, it's rough right now. The other portion I want to correct is the ambulance revenue side of it. We are only responding to second calls. This phase of the ambulance being built out was not intended, like folks keep saying that we're not bringing in enough revenue. That wasn't the intent. It was, we were building that ambulance department up so that we could eventually take over the role of where Action's at right now. You weren't there yet. I can tell you that we are seeing revenue coming in. So in a period of, a year, over $71,000, we're bringing in something. We are supporting the department with that. Anyways, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. So I've been asked by you to develop some revised staffing models in light of the recent failure of the override and the necessary reduction in staffing. You all know that I don't feel this is a good idea at all. Any way, shape, or form, I've expressed to you the risks, the liabilities to the town, but this is what I have for you. So the first part is the budget side of it. I've worked, we had a very good meeting last week and went through numbers. So you have this sheet that gives you some information. I did the best I could with the most current information from the accountant, from Linda, and then also I put in this recent period for payroll. So this is as up to date as I can get it for you. So factoring approximately 19 payrolls that we have remaining, you would agree with that? And again, we discussed this last week, including the remaining holidays that we pay out. You can see that we have $304,389.12 for those employees that are remaining. We've already, the vacancy you have for the deputy chief's position, and then also the lieutenant's position that's been eliminated at this point in time. So those are off of the plate. Also, the way the union contract reads, that goes by seniority. So as of right now, the two lowest would be the ones that would be laid off. So you can see those two totals there in the 5118 line. And then we have one person that receives longevity, Captain Washkevitz, who's been here forever. So he's reached a longevity point. So you can see our total is $332,652.80. That's what we need to get through the end of the budget for just their straight salaries. The overtime side, again, we were only budgeted, our salaries and lines were all frozen for FY26. There weren't any increases to it. So the $30,000 you saw was actually supposed to be over double that, even more than that. But we only had the $31,000 to work with. So right now, and again, there's been a lot of misinformation on our overtime. We have folks that are committed to military service. We had a member who was out sick with some heart issues. We had a member who had to fly to South Carolina to bury or pick up his father who had passed away. So there's reasons for that overtime. We're not doing this purposely or excessively, and we have committed folks that want to make sure that the town is covered. And with the union contract, we have a minimum staff of 2 at this point. So I added in an estimated, this is low again, and again, we'll go into the staffing models, but $25,000 for the rest of the year. So you can see our total that we would need to fund is $355,611.80. What we have remaining at this point in the salaries is $247,670.70. So even with all those layoffs, we're still looking at a shortfall of $107,944.10. So what are we going to do? That's going to be another 2+ employees that we would have to lay off on top of this, bringing our staff down to, if we laid off another 2, there would be 4 full-time firefighters and myself. We wouldn't be filling the deputy's position. I'm having a hard time keeping up with this today, never mind the past 2 weeks since Evan's been gone. But it's been tough. So I just wanted to go through some ideas of how we could cover this cost for FY26. And Linda, I'll need your help, but you gave us the numbers of what we had that was moved from Basically, it was the ambulance receipts and it was put into the ambulance contract account, which is a 01230 account. And as of last Tuesday or Wednesday when we met, there was a remaining $60,753. So I believe that's getting moved into the fire department at the next meeting.
Yes.
And we also have, I believe, currently, we have over $25,000 that we've made since last year, since that last move of that money out in our A1 revenues right now to date. I think it's a little bit more than that. And then I did receive word this afternoon. I've been reaching out to some folks to try and find ways that we could support the fire department. And the police department receives a stipend from the Chinese Immersion School for doing active shooter training. The fire department does that with the police department, and we also do many safety programs, stop the bleed, all that other stuff. So they have committed to us. I have to send them an invoice, so we'll wait until we get the check. But they have committed $15,000 to the Hadley Fire Department specifically, and that would be ongoing. So again, I have a shortfall of 10,000. You can add another 3,000 to the Chinese Immersion School, or you can subtract another 3,000 from the immersion school. So we're under 10,000 that we're short. That's just to keep 4 or 6 full-time firefighters and myself. We have the 2 lines below that, I'm sorry, just through the end for FY26. Okay. The other 2 lines it says part-time wages, that's our call force. So the call force for their response, we have 34,000, and then the part-time wages, that's for training for the call force. And if they do details, things like that. Sometimes we don't utilize all that. With these 2 models, I can tell you that we're probably going to be close to using it because they are going to be a critical component for response because we're just not going to have the staffing. So we're going to have to utilize them more if they're available. So you also have this form that sorry, I didn't have enough for everybody. But I just put in again, so the current characteristics, right now we have the 8 full-time firefighters that are on a 24 on, 24 off schedule. You have myself as the full-time deputy, and I wish I could say I worked a standard work week, but it averages 70 hours because I'm on call after I go home as well. Following the departure of Deputy Chief Bryant, we would kind of split being on call. That's not so much the case now. We do have some call force officers who have been great stepping up to help cover. And then also Brian Washkevitz is basically acting as my second in charge of the department as a captain. Call force members, we have 11 that are active right now. I've expressed to you, it's no secret across the country, the number of call force folks is declining, continues to decline. It's tough to get folks to be able to commit to the training, and they have families, they have to work all day, so it can be tough for them. The current 3-year response data that we have shows that our call force members respond to 0 to 5% of our calls.
So just to be clear on that, they come when they're called, and they're called 0 to 5% of the time. It's not like they say, I'm not coming. This could be misconstrued.
No, they are called all the time. There's always a tone that goes up.
But
during daytime hours, they probably won't respond because they're working and we have full-time staffing.
Right. But what I'm saying, Mike, is I can look at this and say, you're calling these guys 100% of the time, and they're only responding 5% of the time. And that's the real deal.
That's the real deal. Yes. Because again, if you're looking at the total calls during the day, if they're at work, they can't hit that call volume.
Understood.
Overnight, if we're looking between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., 1,000 calls a year. Again, it's hard for them to be able to commit to all of those calls. A false alarm at 2 o'clock in the morning to get up. We've tried every method since I've started. We've done on-call groups. We've tried. It's tough. It's tough to be able to commit to that. And if we have a more significant incident, they're there. So that's good. But we still have to respond to these calls. It's not something that we can't do. It's required by law. If somebody is burning toast and the fire alarm goes off, we have to go make sure it's burnt toast. So anyway, so projected staffing model after the layoff of the 2 full-time firefighters. So I've been evaluating it, and it is mandatory that we maintain 24-hour coverage as a fire department. And the best way to provide this full-time 24-hour coverage through a combination of professional full-time and call force members, I've evaluated and I believe the best model that we have is the first one. Again, neither are great, but this is what we have. So the first model is if we keep the 6, if you agree upon what we're looking at for covering this, is to maintain the current 24-hour shift structure, but reduce to 1 firefighter EMT OIC per shift. That requires 4 of those members to be full-time. Again, the caveat is this all needs to be bargained with the union, and we can't afford to have extensive overtime. So having conversations with the union, they want to work with us, but we have to make sure that we meet with them and see what we can come up with to make this happen. The remaining 2 full-time firefighter EMTs, which would probably be the lower ones on the seniority list, would work 12-hour day shifts, 7A to 7P, and that's on a 4-on, 4-off schedule. Again, bargaining with the union will be necessary to limit overtime during these shifts if personnel need to take their due time off, or if we have a sick day. The fire chief, again, I can cover hours during the regular business days, depending on my availability. I have commitments that I have to be at meetings and trainings. I have to make sure that I'm available to do inspections. So that's the challenge is, yes, I can fill in that role. I was the first one on the scene at the structure fire that we just had, and hooking a hydrant and putting water on the fire. So I get it. The overnight coverage would consist of 1 full-time firefighter EMT with call force members on call to respond to the station. In support, this would allow for quick on-scene time to determine the nature of the incident and also to make sure that somebody's actually responding to it. Call force members, so that if there is something more severe, they can get additional help coming, but then also they could handle I'm not going to say, we don't consider it a false alarm until we're back at the station, but these alarms that might be a trouble alarm at Greenleaves where we get called, or somebody burns their toast and they can go handle it. That way the call force members can remain at the station if an additional call comes in, which happens quite frequently as well. So that's option 1, and in my opinion, the best case scenario for us. Option 2 is the return to, it's actually prior to 2018 staffing model, which would be if, again, we were able to keep the 6 staff, it would be 3 full-time firefighters on the day rotation of 4-on, 4-off. And again, that would allow for minimum staffing during the day. However, the overnight coverage would rely solely on call force members with a minimum of 2 responders required to go for emergency calls. This will result in a delayed response as members need to travel to the station to pick up gear and apparatus. This model is also dependent on the availability of call force members to cover all of these shifts. Our call forces, they're critical and they are pros. I tell them all the time how a deep breath is taken when they show up to these fire scenes. Jeff Moriarty is just a rock star on a department now. Rob Adair, just giving you a couple names. Dan Casal, Austin Heigelhart, these gentlemen show up all the time, but we have low numbers now. And Nick Witowitz, so local guys that are committed to our department. And there's many more. Again, our call force is critical to the department. We have met to discuss potential outcomes for this, and they're concerned too, because we have 1 member who has a new baby. We have actually 2 members that have new babies, and they have to be home. So with this option, we cannot guarantee overnight response by our call force members. It was just not a reflection of their commitment, but rather their availability, especially during work days. Again, in emergencies, we must be certain, not hopeful, of response. So again, implementation dates based upon this data. We have to get the letter, which I sent to Chief Mason just to review. I updated the letter that we have that will be going to the union as soon as possible. So again, my review of the budget shows that with this remaining $660,573, which is currently in the ambulance contract, the other numbers that you see here, we are going to have to go immediately into bargaining with the union. And again, if this is not approved, we would obviously need additional layoffs. Finally, the impact assessments, while the aforementioned staffing models attempt to maintain essential minimal emergency response capability while addressing the immediate impacts of reduced departmental funding, they both are not in the best interest of the town, in my opinion. Not being able to fill the deputy fire chief's position will significantly impact my ability to complete inspections and plan reviews with impact to revenues. We will also be limited to our availability to respond to second calls for ambulance service, which impacts response times and strains our neighboring fire and EMS departments, which also may result in decreased revenues. And again, I cannot make a guarantee on overtime. I've said it before, I don't have a crystal ball. Last fall, we all know how we had a major dry spell with fires all throughout the state. We've had years where we've had 7 structure fires rather than 1 or 2. We have our communities around us that need our assistance as well. If the union agrees to limit overtime for members taking their earned and deserved time off, that is great. I've also explained that most recently, as of last fall, I just don't have a crystal ball for you. And then reminder, we've been asked about mutual aid. Mutual aid is meant to support large-scale incidents. It's not to serve as the primary responder to your community because they have their own calls to cover. So again, we would be putting a major strain on our neighbors, and they've reached out expressing that to us. If every town relied on more mutual aid, everyone's response times would suffer. So that's what I'd like to present to you, and I would. Yes.
Option 1. For option 1, we talked a couple meetings ago about how to you a break at night so you're not having to get out of bed for every ambulance call or every minor call. So if you have the one full-time firefighter that's covering the overnights, would that allow that person to respond, stay in the black truck or in the engine or whatever he has to, so that way you don't have to get out of bed every night for every single small call?
Correct.
Okay.
I evaluate every call based upon when we get the call. So again, it's the pager never gets shut off, which is a problem in itself, but again, it's the job.
And my question on, I see bargaining with the union and it makes me nervous because that's not a slam dunk, obviously. But are you getting a sense that the tenor of those meetings is maybe better than the collective bargaining process was?
I know that, again, I stated it on the news tonight that I have the best department anybody could ever ask for. Sorry. They want to save jobs.
The union.
The union wants to save jobs.
Okay.
Yep.
So yes, I think they're willing to come to the table within reason.
Okay, that's excellent news.
Also, you have on your sheet, the last part is what the costs have been to train our folks. So you have a little bit more information as to what the town has invested into these folks that you have now. And trust me, I understand that these folks will be sucked up everywhere around us because they are amazing. But it's going to take us, a long time to rebuild.
I had a question. After so many calls from mutual aid, will other towns be charging us because we're stressing out their towns of not having and taking care of themselves? Would they be sending us bills? Potentially saying like a fee for helping us out after so many, would they?
Yes. So our current mutual aid agreements actually clarify that after so many calls, they will start sending you a bill because they're not anticipated. Their own select boards and mayors are giving them a hard time because of the overtime. So yes, we would start seeing bills coming in, and it would be for fire and for ambulance, not just ambulance. If they have to start coming to, if we don't have anybody that can respond to a fire alarm activation, that's requiring them to bring in additional staff. So that's why this is it's a steamroller.
Any idea of how much those fees would be that they're saying if there's so many calls, like any ideas?
Anywhere from $375 to $500 per call. And then it's regardless of whether if they get canceled, because as soon as they send that ambulance or fire truck out the door, they are making requests to fill those spaces. Because we are just so busy across the board.
Okay, guys, it's a little bit after 7, so we're gonna cut this short right now. If you want to continue this after,
That's
You're good?
what I have for you.
I just have a question. So with all these numbers and all the work that you've done, which is a great job of asking and going through all this. So the final number that you would need to fund till the next 6 months is how much? What is that total?
So if all of the options are.
Say if it was option one.
No, I'm saying on this.
Yep.
If the select board agrees to the way that I'm cutting that number down, we would be looking at, because I said you can subtract another 3,000 from that 10. So we're looking at 6,000 some odd dollars that we would have to cover from somewhere in the budget to get us through the end of the year.
So you need $6,000.
Yes.
Which could be, we put money into a reserve fund. Right.
yeah. All right, let's talk about it after the forum.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, it is 7 o'clock-ish. And on the agenda is a public forum. So Mr. Mason and Ms. Sanderson, are we gonna?
Yep.
Take that away?
All right, so welcome to your public forum. I apologize for those of you who've been here early because the first item for sure you've already heard. We're going to go through the budget again, but this is a forum that we do before every town meeting. It is intended to provide voters with an overview and some context for the special town meeting, talk about what all the articles are, give folks a chance to ask questions and things like that, and help people understand exactly what the town is doing. The forum is not intended to take any vote other than the select board's recommendation, provide any group or individual the opportunity to advocate for a particular article or speak for or against any article. I think maybe, I don't know if the finance committee would want to take votes. I did watch your meeting last night and I know that you didn't vote on anything officially. Certainly have that opportunity if you'd like today. So Article 1 is the omnibus general budget. Essentially, again, I apologize once again, this is the budget that we just went over. It is the budget that was approved by the select board at the early October meeting. It includes multiple vacant position cuts. It does include potentially what the fire chief just discussed, which is at least 2 potential layoffs, so a total of 3 firefighter positions be eliminated. And I believe there are 5 to 6 positions in other departments eliminated. It involves a $200,000 cut, which is a third cut from the school. And it does balance our FY26 budget. One of the points we want to make about this budget is that, again, this is only FY26 without additional revenue, additional cuts, or a combination thereof. We are going to have a lot more work to do for FY27. So Linda will hit the high points for us. And if anybody has any questions, we can go from there. We're just, that's your,
Sure.
these are the recommended.
People in the audience, there are paper handouts of just 5 back there as well as a copy of the warrant.
Yeah, if for those of you who have attended town meetings in the past, this is our typical change the budget sheet. So we vote the budget in once a year at the annual town meetings, and at other special town meetings during the year, sometimes we make adjustments to those. And so the only thing being voted on at those subsequent meetings are the changes. So this is a full list of changes from the primary budget. So as Mike says, the main theme here was with the bottom line being zero, is that we, without an override, we couldn't just stick with the annual town meeting budget that was voted in May. We actually had to make some adjustments. Some are the usual adjustments. There are contract increases, insurance increases, some things like that that happen after town meeting in spring that kick in for the next year that we have to accommodate. So there's a few increases there. They're not very large. We make an adjustment each year in the fall for COLA increases and union wage increases that have not yet been decided in May. So we have a holding spot in the select board budget. So you'll see a large cut out of the select board budget of almost $70,000 that is spread throughout the others. So those are very typical things that we do at town meetings. So here's the unusual one, because we are not wanting to increase the budget and we're not using any additional free cash to fund it. We had to accommodate, as was said many times, the unexpected increase to the health insurance. That was 18% increase. This is beyond, was it 20 that time? 20% increase. We had an 18% increase that was effective July 1. That was voted in the Springtown meeting budget. So that's one reason we ended up using as much free cash, because that was 230,000. Here we have an additional 20% for 376,000 that we were hoping to get funded by override, but nonetheless, we have to pay for it. So in order to pay for that 376,000 plus some of the other increases I just mentioned, that involved cutting 5 positions in town. The fire department, the fire EMS, the additional positions that were put in when we expanded fire into fire EMS, there were 4 positions that had been added over the last couple of years that were not in the spring budget. Again, that was part of what was requested at overrides. So those, we may be able to do fewer. That's under discussion, but that involves probably 3 to 4 positions not funded by the budget. And then in addition to that, we had the positions, we had 1 taken out of HR. We had 2 taken out of highway, 1 in maintenance and 1 in the highway. We had 1 position eliminated from dispatch and 1 eliminated from inspections. In order to minimize the impact on unemployment, because if we had to pay unemployment on these positions, it will cost even more, and it would probably involve yet another layoff. But anticipating that this may happen in the fall, as positions were vacated over the last 6 months, they were intentionally left open so that the 5 that I mentioned here that have been cut from the budget are positions that are actually currently open. So this was a lower impact at this point than it might have been. So that balances the 26 budget. Some of our larger issues will come out as we look into trying to budget for FY27. It probably will involve additional position cuts, which we will also attempt to do through natural attrition during the year as positions become open. Consideration will be given as to whether they need to be replaced, whether full-time or part-time for those positions, whether there may be some benefit to combining that position with another department. All of these will be taken into consideration as we go through the year. So in order to soften the blow going into 27 and minimize any additional costs of no longer continuing those positions. So that is the budget that we have for you this evening, and will be presented next week. Are there any questions?
Okay. Article 2 is capital articles.
The idea within this article is in fall, the normal fall town meeting, which is what this is usually when we handle capital articles. This year, the total request for either reserve accounts, water, sewer, Hadley Media, as well as borrow within the levy is a total of $1,415,000. The capital committee unanimously approved these amounts. There is 88,000 in free cash use for this list of items. We certainly believe that we will be able to cover that with free cash once it is certified. We won't have as much as we are normally expecting, but we will have enough to cover these items. There is $325,000 in borrowing within the levy. And there is $687,000 in borrowing from those three different reserve accounts, sewer, water, and Hadley Media. I know that Finance Committee last night was discussing, I think, 3 of these items that they just wanted some more information on. And I didn't want to speak for any of you, but if you wanted to ask questions, I know that I can probably help with the school one. And I know that Scott is here for DPW if there was questions about his items or any of the other ones.
So if I could request that Scott come up, because a lot of DPW is just confusing to me, so. So I know I've heard of some of these, but I just need reminders to understand them better. Thanks, Scott. If on a lot of them, we went down the line on these, and there was quite a few that we had questions on, such as we were looking for more details when it came to what's in the sewer asset management, the water asset management. The other things we didn't know too much about was the Water Management Act grant and the SCADA. And those are some of the big things.
Okay.
Just didn't understand.
So sewer asset management grant, asset management, we had a grant for doing a sewer asset management program. The activity was done and completed, and there is a detailed independent survey of our assets in the sewer department. There is a list of suggested repairs in the tune of $3 million in the sewer department. Most of them are deferred maintenance. So I'm requesting this money to start looking at this list and start chopping away at some of the defects in our sewer department. And that's based kind of the same for water. We're currently undergoing the grant to look at the water system. We know that there's issues there already with undersized water main, lack of water main, etc. And we're just asking for a little bit of money that we can maybe start doing a little work in-house. Our current operating budgets don't allow us to do that. And the asset management, like I said, is underway for the sort of part or the water department. It's currently ongoing.
How many items are on this list of the problems that we're having with the sewer and the water? Are we talking dozens in each department, or a few that just cost a lot of money?
Over dozens.
Over dozens.
Mr. Iser and Chief Mason have that document, and I did forward it to Andy today. He has it. It's substantial. And it varies from, safety items to pumps and motors that are, getting up there in age. They're not, the pump curves aren't that great anymore, things of that. And there is some pricing that goes along with it, but some are expensive, some aren't so bad, but we don't have any money to even start looking at this. And that's one of the reasons why We talked about raising the sewer rates to start covering some of these things. The system is failing.
Now, we're gonna be getting, as of December, increased water and sewer bills, revenues, receipts for the town. Has any of that been adjusted to figuring out, or are those gonna be used as keeping as our reserve? And we're gonna be borrowing this money? Because I calculated with my water bill, water is gonna be going up almost 35%, and the sewer is gonna be going up almost 26%. So with that, with the new bills coming out in December, you planning on keeping those receipts in those reserves for whatever emergencies that we might have outside of these $600,000 for repairs on both water and sewer? Or are we gonna, instead of borrowing, wait to see what the receipts are to compensate the difference of what you're asking for? And how long have these things been broken for? They've been broken for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and that we're finally being able to attend to these things because we're asking for money or getting money after this assessment was done? Those are just some questions that I have.
So there's things that are in maintenance related that haven't been done because of deferred maintenance of lack of funding from multiple years back. Some of them are in dire need. Some of them are not in so dire need. That this problem has long superseded, was here but long before me. Nothing was done. And the trickle down effect is getting more and more severe. The cost of everything has gone up dramatically. To, you pull a pump out of one of those buildings and rebuild it, you're talking $10,000 or better. The cost is expensive. And we have not been doing that kind of work. We just been throwing a Band-Aid here, throwing a Band-Aid there, good enough here. And that's coming to an end. Some of the pumps and motors are beyond repair. They're so played out in the internals, they can't even bush them anymore or whatever to repair them. And we have a document from a firm with all this in there that we got a grant, we had a match for, and these are the findings of the survey.
Now, since you stated that there's been neglect over the years, is there a way within your budget within the future to have some money set aside for preventative maintenance instead of waiting till it dies and then it has to be replaced?
That's what
I've been asking for an increased budget for multiple years. I have not seen it yet.
Good.
I ask every year for more money to make repairs or whatever, and it's not available, and I don't get it. The rates are, set. We haven't seen that money come in yet. Part of this program, there is a rate study, and it is not exactly what, was sent to the people. It's much higher. They have it set out, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan along with rates to coincide with potentially funding all that repair.
Is there a way to make sure that that money, that if it is appropriated, is set aside specifically for that purpose and not diverted elsewhere?
Well, I would imagine it's sewer reserves, so it stays within the sewer department.
On long-term maintenance projects as opposed to something new that just came up.
Well, hopefully when you chop away at this list, we don't have those problems. We're back to a maintenance kind of thing and not repair work.
It's quite a list.
Good, thank you.
And the other one I believe you asked Amy was the Water Management Act grant. That's to continue with the so we applied for another grant to continue with the design at the Mount Warner well. So that money that we're asking for is the match, the in-kind money match for that. We're getting very close to a full design on that project. There is a conceptual treatment plant built. It just needs to be finished up, and this would do that. We would be to a 90% drawing to, potentially come to the people of Hadley and say, here you are. Do you want to build a treatment plant at Mount Warner again and get that water up and running? Here's what it's going to cost you. That's what we're trying to do. We're very close to doing that. I feel that the Mount Warner well is something that we should really be looking at. It's a very long-term thing for Hadley for multiple generations to come. That's very good water there. There's a ton of it. It'll take some pressure off of Callahan. That's very expensive to run, the filters, etc., where we could, balance that out a little better.
Yeah.
And it's just like we're very close to having a design, and I would feel really bad if we couldn't finish that. At least to present to the people of here's the design. It's going to cost you $5 million. Do you want to do it or don't you? That's what we're trying to do with that.
With this Hartsbrook Bridge replacement, that's just the engineering for getting it replaced?
So all the bridges in town that are over certain criteria, 10 foot or bigger, Mass DOT inspects. The Hartsbrook Bridge for the last few years has been on there, it's got some deficiencies. There is small bridge grants available to do repair work, etc. But to apply for those, we need a little bit of something in hand to chase that money. We did that prior to me with the Dwyer's, aka Dwyer's Bridge. We had some legwork done on that. I applied for a small bridge grant, and we are very close to a design on that. Myself and Mike met with the engineers a little while ago, and we just about have a design for that job to go forward on replacement. So with a little bit of money that I could hire someone to look at that, say, here's the bridge report. This is the deficiencies. What's a cost estimate? What do we have to do to make these repairs? And then we can look at trying to get some small bridge money to make those repairs. But we have to kind of do something to be able to get that to that step.
I take it that's after the Hartsbrook School off of Bay Road, just where the dip is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Since we're talking about bridges, and I know it's not on there, we're going to be having that bridge on Bay Road by the Callahan well being done. So Fort River. Yeah, that one's going to be done soon.
Yes, I have not heard anything official from the state. I know the job was awarded to a contractor, but they're telling us very little information. I've asked multiple times and I get nothing back.
Okay.
There were,
Yep.
it's a state project.
Just asking because, the way how it's being built next to our water, our wells, everybody should be concerned.
Yeah, we just I don't want to get off topic and have an issue, but we did hire a consultant to look at those plans in the town's best interest. So we don't have another Route 9 problem looking at a plan. So that has been done.
What is SCADA?
It's the computer system that runs the water plant. So the water plant is all run by computers.
Was it before run by computers where it was done by hands-on instead of a computer to dealing, which everything you hear now is about computer hacking and contaminating our water? Is this something to consider is this an upgrade to what we have? Because, everybody's worried about, cyber hacking.
So SCADA's been around for quite some time. With every year, it gets more sophisticated, I guess, more with the times, more automation. So, the tank levels fluctuate, send signal back to computers, it starts pumps up, starts making water, they're connected to, chemical feed pumps, et cetera, dose the water with chemicals. So yeah, it's just the way of the times, the days of just going in there, turning a pump on and walking away are long over.
There's any kind of alarm, I take it, one of the mini guys that you have, they get paged. Something comes up and says, hey, we have some irregular fluctuations in our chlorine levels or whatever it is, and then your guys get sent out by the SCADA system, correct?
Correct.
There must be some sort of a backup for somebody to not just look at it on their computer, say, okay, we're have some pretty bad levels, somebody needs to go there.
Yes, so all the systems are alarmed. They go back to the SCADA, and the automatic dialer sends out when something gets in the parameters of what it's supposed to be. So whether what that is or isn't, we can, the water department personnel on call can access remotely through a laptop that system and look at it and say, okay, this is what's calling out. I can make an adjustment remotely to whatever system, or if it's a tank level, whatever, we're not sure. There's still automated pressure gauges on those where you can go there and do a little bit of math on the pressure and figure out really how much water's in the tank still. But it's all dependent on what the call is.
Is this an upgraded system that we have, but it's an upgrade? I'm sure every other town has.
Yeah, so a couple months ago, the DEP came in and did an assessment of the system. It currently does not meet their criteria for the security levels. There is a grant we applied for up to $30,000. We have not received that information back if it was awarded or not. But the estimate from our vendor to bring it up to the proper levels of security is $50,000. That's new computers with different operating systems, et cetera, that meet all the new criteria of cybersecurity.
And if we get the grant, then it's costing $20,000.
Right. And Jennifer has been working with the water department on procurement of computers, and we're looking at options to see if we can buy computers cheaper than what they're offering us, et cetera. We're trying our best to keep the price of this low, or as low as we can.
And this version is the latest and greatest, where in another 6 months or another year, they're going to be saying, okay, you need a $20,000 upgrade on the system, because we're getting what we have, because there's always an upgrade to an upgrade.
Well, that's just it. You are getting the latest and greatest, and however long that's good for. Yeah, exactly.
Like
right. But that's what we're trying to do, just meet the state's requirement of the security of the SCADA.
I had are you still going?
Go ahead.
So I had a question. It's actually for Linda. So we have the sewer and water asset management, and those are both being borrowed from the reserves. But for the other items that are under as borrowed, they're within the levy?
We have $640,000 worth of general fund borrowing, we call it. That means it will be paid out of the budget. That is the budget in the 700s. We have a $1.8 million budget for principal and interest. That's already been voted. And so as we vote other items to be borrowed, they'll go into the lineup there for being borrowed and paid out of that budget item. So we try not to get too far ahead. We want to be borrowing, and we want to be able to pay off within 5 years what we're borrowing each year. We have an uneven amount of things that are borrowed each year, but we keep the payments even as we go forward, because especially with our short-term borrowing, we have a lot of control over that. So even though it's a high number, we actually don't expect all of it to be used, and certainly not in the first year. So spreading out that amount makes sense. when the two that are being borrowed in water and sewer, they're not being borrowed from our reserves. It's they're being borrowed and then paid back from the water and sewer budgets. So that we also have in the water and sewer budgets, they have their own line items within their departmental budget. And so again, we try and keep that within there. It's probably, those two are going to be higher than what we have had in the past. But as Scott explained, there's a reason that we've raised the rates. It was to be able to start keeping up with these items going forward. And so we'll keep an eye on that. I'm not sure that what the timeline is for your spending the 300,000 in either of those is, Scott, do you know?
It would be a little bit, to figure out exactly what path we'd want to go down and what we wanted to target. So
It'll be spread out.
Yeah,
The spending will be spread out.
It'll be a little bit.
The borrowing will as well, and the payment.
Somewhat spread out, I guess.
And the
depending on
payment
the
even
project.
more so.
And our own guys are gonna be doing the repairs.
Well, depending on what it
Depending on the
is.
severity
Yeah,
of the,
right.
if there's a pump repair, I can understand you're sending it out.
Well, the last one, be honest with you, we did in-house. We rigged it ourselves, we pulled it ourselves, we sent it all ourselves, we got it back and reinstalled it. Obviously, get an electrician to make final connections on it. Because you do something wrong, as you know, you own that. So, but the last one we did in-house, we were able to do it. Some we are and some we're not. It depends on the situation and where and when.
Any other questions on the capital items?
I just have one question. The building demolition.
Yes.
What building?
234 Middle Street, the house we acquired for the DPW potential expansion. That was part of like our grand scheme of things, the knock the house down and, build a new facility. We cleaned out the house, it's pretty empty. We had it abated just to check for asbestos, and it has asbestos in it. So there's a little bit of liability there with that house,
I'm just wondering if it's
Yeah.
more a liability issue.
Yeah,
because
that's-
we don't have a plan to build a new.
No,
DPW.
it's to take us out of the liability with owning the house. I talked to, the fire chief about it. There's a little bit of risk, having that house. There's very little activity down there now to people watching, et cetera. I talked to Sue about the insurance thing on it. There is some things that would be beneficial for us to demolish that house.
Thank you.
What is the MS4 for the highway?
That's the stormwater management. It's a state requirement that we have to follow. Years ago, there was a big borrowing
Yep.
for it.
$350,000.
$350,000. And so every year we have a consultant work with us on that makes sure that we're in compliance with the discharge of the water of the Connecticut River. So there's particular things that we have to look at and do, road sweeping, cleaning so many catch basins. They have to look at certain outfalls of water around, or primarily in North Hadley around Lake Warner, et cetera. So just to keep us in compliance with that, we are in very good shape with the MS4 program. We're actually a little ahead. I think it'd be wise to continue to stay ahead of that and not behind. So that's, we're looking to just continue our MS4 contract and just keep everything going.
Chapter 90 supplemental, what is that? Someone said that's road repair?
Well, I've always asked for extra budgetary money to do some road work. The chapter 90 money only goes so far. So, July-ish, when we got the chapter 90 was sent to us. Our balance was $820,000, 375. The last paving project was $380,000, which leaves us a balance of $440,000. There's quite a bit of road work still to be done. Bridge things to be looked at, et cetera. I would just,
local money to help supplement some of the road work, line painting. The lines need to be painted. That's over $50,000 to paint the yellow and white lines in town. Maintenance things, crack sealing is the best money you can put on a road for preventive maintenance. We did a crack sealing project this year out of Chapter 90, but then again, it takes away from the amount of road work you can do. So it's just money to add to the pot of money.
That's it.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
If the boards don't mind, we'll go through all of it and then we can just kind of ask for votes at the end. And if the finance committee wishes to vote, you can. If not, certainly your choice.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Oh, yeah.
Those ballistic vest replacements,
Yes, sir.
are they expired on the existing ones that you have? Are those new for the new cadets, or are those from the wear and tear that the officers are wearing every single day because they all have expiration dates on them?
If I understand your question correctly, I believe 1 and 3 apply. They are rated for 5-year expiration, and wear and tear, just simply wearing the vest, degrades the ballistic integrity of it. So they suggest that you replace them after 5 years. They've been on capital each time for 5 years or so. I think we've done 2. We also write a reimbursement grant. The last 2 times we've done this since I've been the chief, which will net us. It has net us in the past about half of the total cost, and that can go back into the general fund basically to pay back. So essentially, we're looking at about half this amount total spend. But that's
So it's kind of like a trade-in. So you give them back to them, they do whatever.
No, we don't give them back to them generally. We usually just store them, keep them. Sometimes we'll use them as like secondaries, just as an example. Like they don't necessarily give you the same ballistic integrity, but I have one in my cruiser. I have one in my office. These are old vests, just in the event that I ever needed to throw something on and hope for the best kind of thing. The NIJ does have standards for destruction of these, and I don't know that we've ever actually used those before. And based upon your meeting, we are going to look into seeing if we can get some kind of a reimbursement for giving them to some of these companies that will probably break them down and maybe make them into new vests. I don't know how they do it or what they do with it, but that is one thing that we're going to look into based upon your meeting from last night.
And we were to ask you about the security upgrades for the schools.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I skipped that. So yeah, I want to be real careful about this one. I can talk about it a little bit. So our school resource officers, as well as Mass State Police, over the course of a few years, have done kind of security threat studies on our schools and look for kind of vulnerabilities in how we kind of operate. I don't want to get too deep into the vulnerabilities and what those are for our schools, but what I can tell you is that for this capital item in particular, these are things that I think have been on the list in the past, and they've kind of attacked more prominent things that they can do for safety. These 3 items are a blue light system, which is something that's used in a lot of schools that can be activated from the inside, which would flash like a blue strobe on the outside to indicate to people or passing police officers that there's an emergency going on in the school. It also is used in certain occasions for, say, there's something going on during school drop off. It would tell the parents, don't drop your kids off here, just keep on driving kind of thing. So that's one of the things for this request. The other thing is new security doors for the school. They're commonly called man traps, but essentially it's kind of like a airlock is the best way to describe it. Basically, it's just a way to kind of add a layer of protection in order to get into the school.
Like adding a vestibule to the buildings, mean something like that, like a box?
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know what the design will actually be, but
the school is working on, finding a contractor and all that to see what it would look like. And then the last thing is simply new blinds for the exterior windows as well as the interior doors. Without getting into too much detail, those are super important when it comes to lockdown procedures. And that's what those three items are made up of.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Article 3. Recently, the state allowed cities and towns to adopt Chapter 138, Section 12B, which allows businesses in town to trade in their wine and malt beverage licenses for an all alcoholic beverage license. We do have probably 10 to 15 different establishments in town that this applies to. When the state passed the law, I believe Jennifer's phone nearly caught fire for people calling and requesting to be able to switch over. This would bring in more revenue for the town, not a tremendous amount, but it will bring in more revenue for allowing businesses to sell all alcoholic beverages rather than just wine and malt. So that's Article 3. Article 4 is the tax agreement bylaw. So this article seeks to formally authorize the town treasurer to enter into tax payment agreements with property owners whose parcels have been taken into tax title due to unpaid property taxes. The goal is to help property owners get current on their taxes while protecting the town's financial interests. It's up to 5 years in duration. It requires an initial 10% of the total amount, and balance is paid on a schedule approved by the treasurer. It is important to note that this article actually has already been approved at town meeting. As most of you know, anytime we approve an article that has to do with MGL, it does have to go to the Attorney General's office for final approval. They did send it back to us for some minor revisions in the duration, meaning how long this can last, as well as the initial payment percentage. Those changes have been made to this. And so this is essentially just going back on with the AG's recommendations in place. You have a question? Any questions? Okay, Article 5, sewer infrastructure grant match. So this funding, I know Scott's here to talk about this one again. I did see that the Finance Committee had some questions about this one. This funding supports a very early stage in the planning for a proposed sewer extension between the towns of Hadley and Amherst. It would provide long-term wastewater management needs and to support future potential development along Route 9. The amount of $38,955 is the town's match for the $350,000 grant that we were awarded. The grant will support engineering services and feasibility analysis for the proposed extension. I'm sure there's some questions for Scott. He can expound upon that.
So Peter, just kind of like the beginning. So a couple of years ago, we conjunction with Amherst, there was conversations about, some resources together. Water and sewer were a topic of conversation. Molly was part of these conversations.
And David Phil.
And David Phil. So a couple of years ago, Amherst applied for a grant to look at taking some sewage from us, the Amherst, from the Mill Valley pump station. So they got the grant. We're about halfway designed to send sewer to Amherst. This would continue the design. We would get to a more shovel ready project with this, continuing with this design for Mill Valley to go to Amherst. The particulars with this are still haven't been ironed out. I reached out to Amherst 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks before that, to just kind of rekindle the fire and keep the conversation going. And, you know, it's tough getting them in a room to discuss this further. And, you know, Molly and David have been in conversation with me with Amherst and the prior town administrator to come up with a long-term plan of what's it going to cost us to connect to their system. I know at one point they were very interested in getting water from us during their peak times, which is when the students are back. They kind of have a weird system there. In the summertime, it's not their peak time where it's our peak time. And, you know, now it's not our peak time, it's their peak. So there's some things there we can, you know, definitely work together with Amherst. But, you know, obviously we need to finish this design first. I know I talked to Andy, my liaison, about this a little bit, about this plan and, you know, another plan sitting on a shelf or whatever kind of thing. I don't think this plan, like if we finished it, would get old. Only thing that would get old would be the cost. The pumps are the pumps. The amount of pipeline it's going to take to get to Amherst is going to get to Amherst. That kind of stuff is never going to change. That like a building that the codes change, this change. There's nothing's going to change with this, just the dollars. So I think it's, whether it moves forward or not, I think it's a viable plan for us. It'll take pressure off of our sewer plant if this happens, for future expansion there. God only knows what's coming down the pipeline with the DEP, but kind of, you know, treatment techniques would have to do down there differently. I know a big topic conversation with them lately is PFAS. Well, PFAS is now not only in drinking water, it's being found in wastewater. So there's a lot of things that if we sent a lot of our sewage to Amherst long-term would probably benefit us. The price of sludge hauling, electricity, everything, every expense we have here, we could send a little bit to Amherst. You know, obviously we'd be paying them to do that, but I think it'd be a long-term savings to us that we would potentially never really have to do anything to the current treatment volume. It would be status quo.
What do we have for operation right now at the plant, sewer wise? Percentage wise, you know, at capacity. You know, at capacity, at our peak, not when college is gone, you know, when students are gone, but you know, time now is September, October until
60%, 65%.
Okay, so we're at 65% right now. What are the benefit? I mean, what does it cost? Because you're talking about the Mill Valley. That's where they get the sludge from. They get the sludge from Middle Street to bring over to Amherst for it to be processed.
No, just the raw sewage would, instead of getting pumped from Mill Valley to Route 9 to come here, it would get pumped from Mill Valley and go to Amherst.
And all that from Mill Valley, where would that all be coming from? Is it coming from the Amherst Avenue line to Mill Valley?
Yes.
That right there. So we're losing all that revenue from all those commercial businesses that we're getting our water and sewer from that department. All those revenues would be going to Amherst. Sewer revenue fees would all be going to Amherst.
We don't know that because we don't know what the fee would be from Amherst. We don't know how much revenue would be moving or not.
So Peter, this was probably 5 years ago when we had the initial conversation with Amherst. And at the time, we would, if we had moved then, we could have sent sewage to them to be treated cheaper than we could treat it ourselves. And so based on their capacity and their costs and what they were charging for sewer. So I don't know how that holds now 5 years later, but at the time, you know, if we were charging $7 and we could have sent it to them for $5, we basically would be making money, you know, based on what we're charging and giving them the raw sewage to treat. So I don't know how that's changed over the last 5 years because a lot's changed, obviously, but at the time it was financially beneficial.
But we'd still get the water sewer bills here.
Yes, and we would still bill our people, our residents for the sewage treatment. It's just basically subcontracting out a portion of the treatment, which would be Route 9. Maybe.
which is a lot of our revenues from all the restaurants, car wash. Get all that money back. Yeah, but so to consider all those things are where we're getting our sewer revenues from. If it's from Mill Valley, you're talking every restaurant that's there, the car wash, all the way to the things, to the town line. We're losing that revenue in return of our capacities at 65%.
No, I think you might be missing it. I think we send out the bills, we get the money. All we would be doing is, like David said, like, let's say it costs, $7 for us to do it. We're just subcontracting out. So we're still getting the money from those people because we're still billing them. It's just we're paying Amherst to take the sewage instead of treating it ourselves if it was more expensive for us to do it. So the bills are still the same, going to everybody that has it.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect of this is we're trying to do some long-term planning. So there has been some concern about the capacity of our sewer plant. And if that starts to preclude us from making decisions, for the development along Route 9 that would generate a lot more revenue. We aren't in a position to do it. Again, we're trying to think ahead here. This, again, is information gathering. It's trying to keep the conversation moving forward. As Scott said, there's no specific agreement right now, but if we stop, then we're not going to have that option down the road. So it seems prudent to just, keep these balls in the air.
Is there a particular project in mind?
No.
I'm just.
Are you aware of a project?
Well, I was referring to the CPA, when this thing came across, the CPA was coming across for, affordable housing. And there was discussion of a number of units going in at that end of Route 9 in the application. And so that if this was to address the affordable housing potential expansion of a transformational housing project, I believe is the words that we use in the CPA application. So I didn't know if that was something we wanted to talk about here. If this is part of a longer term plan where there's an investment, I understand if we're looking to alleviate potential backups with the sewer, no pun intended, for capacity, that's one thing. Another thing though is if we are looking at this being groundwork for a larger housing development unit at that end, a rather large one, I think it should be out there that we certainly consider all the costs that type of project might incur, both on our fire and safety and roads and school, and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and I think it's incredibly premature right now because we don't even have the zoning to allow for that, Andy. And that's, there are zoning initiatives underway. So this was something that came up with the Smart Growth Committee as well. Does it make sense to run just a parallel track?
So I guess the question is this necessary at the moment? Right.
Right. I mean, certainly if we got to a development at that end, this is something that may be a cost that could be shifted onto the developer to pick up.
Exactly.
But this
If there was a development.
This will also allow us to open more restaurants, potentially more hotels.
Microphone, sir.
Sorry. After I made that comment before, yes. Sorry. This will also allow for more restaurants. Our capacity for restaurants, our capacity for hotels will also be enhanced if we can increase capacity and move some of this off at potentially at a small profit by combining forces with some of our sewage over to Amherst.
And at this point in time, the $39,000, I believe, is a good investment. You don't want to have somebody come forward with this incredibly lucrative project that would benefit the town and say, gee, we'd love to have you do it, and we'd really like all those millions of dollars in taxes, but we don't have the infrastructure to allow you to do it. We've got the land, but we don't have the infrastructure. If we have it ready to go, that would be huge. I believe it's called an investment in the future. And anytime anybody hooks into the sewer system in this town, there is a fee that has to be paid. Now, I don't know what it is, but I know it's not $3. It's quite a bit of money, especially for commercial. So I'm sure we'd get quite a bit of the money back.
Peter, just to touch on what you're saying about, that corridor of Route 9 there. That's the toughest area of sewage for us to treat also.
Grease traps.
Grease traps, the car wash recycles a lot of water. They send it to us when it's very acidic. So there's a lot of things that would benefit us to not treating that water. It's the toughest area of town to treat. It's not residential sewage. It's commercial. There's a lot of grease. There's a lot of, cleaning agents, etc. It's just not good wastewater.
Thank you.
Good on 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Article 6 is our emergency generator funding from water reserves. As I think you all recall, we had a breakdown of our emergency generator, which basically powers our most important water plant in town. Scott's coming back up. Water treatment plant on 129 Bay Road. Both the Finance Committee and the Select Board determined this to be a emergency, and we went through the procurement process for that. We're able to get the generator replaced, and this is a vote to raise and appropriate $415,505 from water reserves to pay for the cost. There was a few questions on this last night. The one that I caught that I was able to reach out to Scott about already was why is there a difference between the numbers that were being discussed? I believe it was in the high 3s to the 415,505 now. And Scott was able to let me know, I don't want to speak for you, Scott, but was that this is a contingency percentage that is essentially added to an item of this size, and I believe that it's not going to be ready for a bit. So we're just making sure that we cover all of our bases. That's why the number is slightly different than the number that was discussed several months ago. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the number we discussed several months ago was just the raw number of replacing a generator. There was no contingency on that. I talked to Jennifer about that, our procurement officer, and we felt that we should have a contingency on that. That's a standard practice of 10% on any job that we do here. We have a contingency plan in case there's some unforeseen problem that we can pay for that. That's nothing that we never did. And additionally, we paid out of our operating budget $15,486.82 for prior bills for this project from mostly the rentals from January 1 to current, which obviously we're not paying anymore, but $15,000 to the water budget is another pretty good hit. We'd like to put that money back. Last year, we absorbed all the rental fees and this happened in late February, March to June 30th out of our operating budget. So we just like to have that money back. So that's what that 15,486 is for.
When is this generator supposed to be ready?
We had there was a small delay in it, but they're still talking January-ish. So yesterday they finished pouring the concrete pad for the new generator. All the conduit has been moved. Everything is ready down there to accept the new generator and, set it and pull wire and get it up and running.
Okay, and just so everybody understands, the company that we're working with is providing us a free backup generator at this point in time. Is that correct?
Correct. It's down there and it's operational.
Okay, so that's saving us $5,000 a month-ish,
10.
$10,000 a month. So that's huge. Okay.
I had a question for Linda. Sorry. So with the 415,505 in Article 6 and the 82,000 from Article 2, how much is left in water reserves?
Well, we don't have our certifications back yet, but we are expecting that to be probably in the $600,000 range. And these two expenditures are going to be pretty close to 500,000. So it's going to bring our water reserves down. We didn't want to put this one in for borrowing. Basically, because it's already been spent. We're just trying to backfill what we've already spent in order to get this generator. So fortunately, it was the water reserves and not the sewer, because we wouldn't have been able to do it. And because of the increase in the rates that will be kicking in this year, we hope that we will then be able to replenish water reserves at a better rate. But we will be able to cover these two, just barely, and something left over to get us rolling again.
I know. Okay, so I have a question. So you already you purchased this, we have it, correct?
We have a signed purchase agreement with
We
a
do.
vendor and the machine has been ordered.
It's been ordered.
Yes.
Okay. So we said during our meeting, so this is, I guess, more for Mike. We said yes to whatever that number was. So, and then I understand why we have the difference, and that's fine, but I'm wondering why we just don't put the difference in here, because say it's 360, we already said yes. So at town meeting, we can't really just say no. We can't vote no on this because we already spent it. So why does it come through again? We already said yes under the emergency. Why do we have it on here? Sorry, I just didn't understand, because I didn't think we could say no, because we spent it.
We can't. The emergency spending is to allow you to go ahead and spend ahead of getting your authorization, but you still need to go ahead and get that authorization. So they just allow you to, I guess, take that leap of faith, and which we are now closing.
Okay.
Amy, part of the procurement process too with this is I've been working hard with Jennifer on this. This is mandated in our withdrawal permit. We have to have this. There is no question on that. I provided that documentation to Jennifer to give to the state for the emergency procurement aspect. So this is something that we don't have a choice with this. We have to have this.
I totally agree. I just didn't understand why it was going on, why we were doing it twice. So I thought it was a done deal before. I didn't realize it had to go through again.
I think, isn't town meeting for the appropriation?
Yeah,
It's the formality.
Gave the emergency.
Right, but I think the whole point that it has to be a warrant article is the formality of the appropriation of the funds. If I understand it right.
Yes.
That's exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
So you're talking about the 10% just in case for difficulties, problems for the additional costs. I absolutely understand that you want to put that 15K back in the water reserves. Very smart about that. But you figured 10% plus minus because of who knows?
Yeah, you're a contractor. You know that. Yeah. So, I mean, knock on wood, thus far, there's been no issue with, rerouting the conduit, putting the temporary generator wired properly into the building. Everything is
going as planned so far.
Right? But we haven't, set this new unit down, whatever. But,
so it could be less.
Yeah, right. We might not need the contingency. Everything might go perfect and we might not need a dime. Yeah, but you don't know.
God, thank you.
Might as well stay for Article 7.
So,
No. Or, I'm sorry, 8. So I meant 7.
So Article 7 is the compensated time fund. This is
a fund that allows employees to be paid unused vacation, sick leave, any of the leave that they are entitled to, being compensated for after they leave our employ. There was a bunch of questions at Finance Committee. I tried to catch as many of them as I could. This was established a year ago. That was one of the questions. The compensation fund was established a year ago. The first installment that was put into this account by town meeting was 60,000. We had 4 retirements that came in the recent past after injecting that money into it, which totaled approximately 55,000. So we are down to about $5,000 in this account. We want to try to build this back up because operational budgets sometimes don't have the capacity to cover some of these costs. Sometimes they do. And essentially, I know one of the other questions was about retirees versus non-retirees, meaning just resignations, things like that. This does not differentiate between retirees and non-retirees. What the MGL allows for is all employees who leave your employ under any circumstances in which they are owed anything. Any financial liability the town is required to pay them. So it can be anything from a termination all the way to a retirement. We have only, to my knowledge, used it for retirements so far. That is the common use of it, usually because retirees have much higher levels of leave that they need to be paid out for rather than someone who's been here for a year or two. Oftentimes, those can be covered within the operational budget out of their existing salary. But as you saw, we put 60,000 in it for the first time, and almost all of it was used up by 4 folks. So this is just another injection into this account just to make sure that we have enough money in here to be able to pay out folks what's what we owe them.
Thanks for listening last night. You answered a lot of questions.
I did the best I could. I didn't want everybody to have to ask 100 questions tonight. So I apologize I wasn't able to be there. Any questions on that one? All right. Article 8, Indian Pipe Road acceptance. As you know, many of our town meetings have these roadway acceptances. This road is the same as any other. It has gone through all of the same inspections. It has been brought up to, I guess, standards, town standards or code. It has been inspected by the DPW director as well as by our chair of the select board, and it meets all of the requirements which it should, and all of the requirements which all of the other accepted roads should. So this article is for the town to vote to accept Indian Pipe Road as a public way. Any questions on that one? Yes. Indian Pipe Road is off of Shattuck Road. It's almost at the town line of Sunderland.
How much additional time, Scott, would it take for the sanding and plowing to doing that? Is that a miles worth of road there? I've been there once, but only in one direction.
It does that, and we're already doing it for public safety, so it's really no, more work or less for us.
Okay.
What's it less? It's got to be what, less than a half mile, maybe 3/10 of a mile, if that.
Public safety, so it didn't matter how we doing it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Article 9. I don't know if anyone is here from CPA to talk to this. Mary might be on. The last 2 articles are CPA articles.
I am here. I'll be glad to talk to them. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So the first one is for $1,700. The Hadley Historical Society is requesting funds for the preservation of 2 important document artifacts in their collection. The first document is a rare 19th century broadside of the Declaration of Independence, which has some tears and staining and needs to be restored by a professional conservator. Cost for that is they've gotten some bids for $1,000. And the condition assessment and cost estimate will be provided by the conservator, which they've gotten. So that's the first part of this. The second is the Historical Society would like to purchase an archival storage and display case for the $1,599 Goff Bible, which was owned by the family of Hadley's first minister, John Russell. So the case would allow for the safe and secure display and proper storage of this rarely seen artifact. And that would cost for that is $700. And the CPA committee unanimously recommended this.
Mayor, you said that they're asking for $1,700, but to rehab the declaration was going to be $4,000. Where are the additional funds coming from? Do you know?
I think you misheard me. I'm sorry. I said 1,000.
Oh, I did miss.
Yeah, for $1,000.
Yeah, I said that funny. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you.
Maybe
So
I missed, where does it displayed?
Where's it going to be displayed, Mary? Do you know?
So the Goff Bible will be displayed at the Historical Society. It would be something I think they could transport if there was a special event somewhere that it could be securely displayed, but it'll be in the Historical Society building. And the other one, the Declaration of Independence won't be displayed just for preservation of it, but it'll be restored and conserved, and it could be brought out for, again, special events, but it'll be better to be stored flat and out of light. So it'll be, they'll keep it in a secure place within the historical building as well.
Thank you.
Any questions on Article 9? Okay, Mary, if you want to jump to Article 10.
Sure. So this one is for a one-time project, and Hadley Historical Society is requesting funds for hiring a part-time person, about 10 hours a week, an archivist or curator for up to a year to professionally manage and preserve the several thousand historic articles and multiple volumes of archival documents in the Society's collection. The archivist curator would help to better organize and inventory the collection and would identify and implement recommendations for rehousing, restoring, and/or archival storage of collection items. The Society's extensive collection of historical artifacts and archival documents cannot be properly preserved without better knowledge of what the collection contains and of the need to restore and/or rehouse objects in appropriate archival storage. This project would build on and enhance the ongoing efforts of Society volunteers and interns in implementing preservation and collection management recommendations of the state's archivist's 2025 Strategic Assessment Report on the Hadley Historical Society's collection management needs. So they basically would like to hire an archivist curator to go through the collections and also recommend what they should be doing for further preserving and displaying them. And again, the CPA committee unanimously recommended this.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
All right, so that is your warrant. Jennifer has some technicalities to go over with you as far as voting. One quick note, the last slide is your special town meeting notification. Thursday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. at Hopkins Academy. We will be in the gym again.
Yes, everyone, the moderators posted that we have coming in the gym again.
Okay. Great.
Want us to vote on this thing?
I do. I would like to have the votes, and then I would just like to discuss the division of the motions for the articles. So could we go through the votes first for recommendations, and then we could divide up who's speaking to what article, if that's okay?
Do you want just select board or the finance committee as well, if they're willing, able to vote?
I thought I would just ask both committees for each article and let them decide because they might be able to vote on some of them, but not all of them.
Okay.
Is that okay with the chair of the finance committee?
We were just talking about which ones, we weren't 100% sure which ones we are comfortable with. For sure, I don't know, because I was just trying to take a quick poll. I know that there's probably a lot of them that could be.
Okay.
Let's just go down the line, and then if you guys want to vote, yes. If you want to vote for or against, yes. If you don't want to vote for that particular article, just say.
And then what, if we can't and you still have to print, we can hand that to the moderator, our vote at town meeting.
Right. I could handle some printing before, as long as I have it before. If y'all could meet just as quickly as possible. Because meeting is Thursday and I'll need printing time to have them. But as long as y'all met relatively quickly, we could make it work, say Monday.
Yeah, we can look at that.
Okay.
Sorry, can I ask one question on an article?
Ask us none easy.
Just one. It's a question for Scott. If the
Just wanted back up. Just want to see more.
no. I just was gonna ask, if Article 5 doesn't pass, are we at risk of losing grant funding?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. I just, as a point of clarification, that's all. Yeah. So, the sewer infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grant.
Yeah, if we don't have the grant match, we can't move forward with funding, and we have the grant in hand already. We're just need to match the continuing.
Okay.
We were given that.
Okay. I just wanted, as a point of clarification.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, carry on.
okay. Article 1 is the omnibus budget general fund. Can I have a motion from the select board?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion by David, second by James.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And is the finance committee willing to vote on that this evening?
Not this evening.
Okay.
How, when you say vote to recommend, I'm just curious. So,
That is
so
not
what-
the budget that they're recommending. The budget that is being recommended is the one that I handed out to y'all. That is the handout that Linda has put together.
Okay.
That is the budget that we are
this one,
submitting
that one.
town meetings for yes.
Okay.
Okay. And we're still a no. Okay. Article 2, clean up prior capital. Excuse me, Article 2, capital articles. My apologies.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Jane. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. Next is.
You guys want to vote on that?
I'll vote on all.
Oh.
You guys voting on that one or no? Yeah.
Not on that one.
Okay, Article 4 or Article 3, excuse me, wine and malt to all alcohol. That's chapter 138.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
By Molly, seconded by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye. Wait,
Okay.
and Finance Committee, are you willing to vote on that one?
Yes.
Yep.
So do we have a motion for?
I'll make a motion that we approve, endorse, Article 3, adoption of Chapter 138, Section 12D.
Second.
So a motion by Paul, second by Andy, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you. And Article 4 is the tax agreement bylaw.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Jane, seconded by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Finance Committee, are you willing to vote on that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion. I was going to say motion that we approve the tax law, Article 4 tax agreement bylaw as written.
I'll second it.
Motion by Andy and a second by Paul, all in favor? Aye.
Okay, Article 5 is the infrastructure grant match. Select board.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by Molly. All those in favor?
Aye. That'll be a pass on the finance.
Okay. And Article 6, emergency generator, select board.
Motion to accept?
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
And finance committee.
Yes, well, Pat.
I motion that we support Article 6, emergency generator funding, water reserves as written.
Second.
Motion by Andy and a second by Paul. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Article 7, compensated time fund, select board.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
By Amy, second by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Finance committee.
I'll make a motion that we support Article 7, compensated time fund.
Second.
Motion by Paul and second by Peter. All in favor? Aye.
And Article 8, Indian Pipe Road.
Motion to accept?
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
And finance committee.
Yep, I would do it. I'll make a motion to support Article 8, Indian Pipe Road acceptance.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Andy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last two, Article 9, document preservation CPA.
Motion to accept?
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
And FinCom.
I make a motion to accept Article 9, preservation of document and purchase of display case CPA as written.
I'll second it.
Motion by Andy and a second by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then last one, the archivist CPA. Select board.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by Molly. All those in favor? Aye.
And FinCom.
I'll make a motion that we support Article 10, archivist curator for Hadley Historical Society Project CPA.
Second.
Motion by Paul and a second by Andy. All in favor? Aye.
And then if we could do the divisions of motions on who would like to speak to each one. There are 10 articles, 2 of them are CPA, so Mary Thayer will speak to those 2. Member Nevin Smith has just mentioned that she will not be here at town meeting, so we will not assign to her. So is it for the select board, is there someone who would like to speak to Article 1? Or would you like it to be handled by someone else?
Brenda's really good at that.
Linda does such a good job.
All right, that's Sanderson. And Article 2 for capital articles. I did notice that the capital committee chair happens to be on the finance committee now. And it did cross my mind that perhaps y'all might like him to speak to the capital. And he's not here, which is a great time to volunteer.
Yeah. I would have to double check to make sure. I can't even guarantee he will be at, I'm assuming he will be there, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, would y'all like to divide maybe and do a select board member and a finance committee member?
Who's our finance or capital committee?
With Mr. Iser.
Okay, if you won't do it, I will.
Thank you. Article 3 is the all alcohol select board.
It sounds like you, Jennifer.
It is me, but I do other things at town meetings.
I'm just joking.
Okay. I hang out in the back.
David Bond.
Article 4, the tax agreement bylaws. So Molly spoke to this last time. It makes sense? Okay. Article 5 is the infrastructure grant match.
I'll do that.
Thank you. And compensated, emergency generator.
Where are you?
Parsons, thank you. Compensated time fund.
I'll do it.
Thank you. Last one is Indian Pipe Road.
I can do that.
Thank you, Molly. Okay, that is a town meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Jane owes us next meeting. Jane owes us next meeting. She's got to speak about all of them.
I know we saw that.
All right, next up, we got health insurance. I'm assuming Lauren's gonna speak to them.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So last select board meeting, we had talked about chapter 32B, sections 21 through 23. And really what we're focusing on tonight is section 23 because we already have adopted sections 21 and 22. Section 23 outlines moving to the GIC, the process that the town would follow should they decide to go with the GIC for health insurance. The recommendation from the attorney was to accept the whole shebang again, sections 21 through 23. And so that's what I would be asking of you guys tonight.
Okay, and that would just allow us to utilize that if it made sense.
If it made sense, yes. So at the next select board meeting, I'm going to present to you guys kind of what our options are for discussion and hopefully for vote on moving forward. Part of this is if we do decide to change insurance, we will need to appoint a public employee committee, which is made up of a representative from each union in town, including the schools, and then a retiree representative to negotiate with for the changes. Also, what we don't have in Hadley is an insurance advisory committee who kind of does some of the research and advises in terms of some of the changes that I would suggest that we look toward and appointing in the very near future. So I guess that would also be one of my recommendations. This is just covering our bases should we need to move, given the fact that the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, we're not sure how long they're going to last. So we'd like to get moving on this sooner rather than later.
I have a question.
Sure.
You know, you've written here, it says the meeting will be Hadley Town Hall for that meeting, the last line. On the question of October at 7 p.m.
I actually, no, that was a template that she had put up. The one that was sent out was actually addressed to here. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Make a motion. I'll make a motion that the town of Hadley elect to engage in the process to change health insurance benefits under MGL chapter 32B subsection 21 through 23 and adopt the same.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Molly. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, what do we got left then? That. All right, so do we want to take back up the fire chief's proposed?
We finish it.
We get Violet off the screen.
Oh, sure. Okay. I didn't know Violet was there.
Well, it's real weird.
Okay.
Yes, she's there.
All right. So item 6.1, Council on Aging PVTA grant proposal approval.
Okay, I'm gonna talk to this. If I have any questions, she's gonna back me up.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is our fourth year with this grant. The PVTA applies for a grant that benefits them, and of that grant, they give half to the town. So the COA is getting money to pay the drivers for our van at no cost to the town. We've done it every year, and all we need to do tonight is to approve that we can go on with this application. The money gets reimbursed as the money is already in our budget for, well, actually it's next year's budget, but it's in our budget under driver salaries. And then as we pay those out, the town gets reimbursed by PVTA. So it costs the town nothing.
Sounds like a win to me.
It is a win. And what we need is a letter, and there's a sample included from the town administrator. There's last year's, it's in the paperwork here, basically, with the new numbers on it saying yes.
Make a motion that we submit a letter of support or PVTA Section 5310 grant request for FY 27.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Molly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Violet.
Good night, Violet.
Good night.
Okay, now, yeah. Do we want to go back and take a look at the fire chief's proposed budgetary changes? I'm not the financial wizard here, so somebody's gonna have to tell me what we need to do, if anything, about this.
Well, I guess my only question, I just wanted to clarify so that FY 26 firefighter shortfall salaries make the 10,371 on your spreadsheet. So funding for that is undetermined right now, is that right?
Correct. Yep.
But he did say that the PVCICS was gonna give 15,000 instead of 12, so that 10,000 would be 7,371.
And again, in my statement, I told you that I can't guarantee the overtime, but there is some flexibility, which I also stated under call force, where sometimes there's some residual money there as well.
Yeah, so my question would just be, in the spirit of not having all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted. And again, this is your best estimate right now, but if you kind of know that there is likely to be a $7,000 shortfall, given the budget changes that were made, I know that some of the monies were put back into the finance reserve. And I'm just wondering if that would be a good place to cover that, so that we have a plan up front, the finance committee would agree to that, or if
How much is in the finance review?
it's like 55,000.
Couldn't we cover on that small?
55 was just added to whatever.
With the new budget.
75.
I guess we're passing the buck down to you guys.
So I thought we weren't voting on this. That's why I was asking.
No, we did not. That we voted on this. This stuff, all the other stuff except this. This is not in the budget we voted on.
Yeah, this is, we have to determine if I need to lay off.
Right,
employees.
where are we gonna get the money from? And are you now that you voted on this, now saying now take it out? Yeah. I mean, that's, you guys correct me down at that end of the table, right? Because if the budget passes, right, so now we have 75,000 in the finance reserve fund. Yes, so I'm asking kind of in anticipation of could we cover it from there?
Yeah.
Understand.
So I would have to, and we haven't voted on it, so that's fine, because we have not voted on the budget. But my thinking is financing possibly instead of taking it out of voting yes on all this and then taking it out of the 50,000 of the finance reserve. Instead, increasing the select board by that 7,000. Just to take out a little more out of there to put it instead. What? Come again? Well, I mean, if an emergency comes, why are we taking more out of why don't we change a little bit of what is on this page? Why are we taking out of our reserve? I mean, I'm possibly taking out of the reserve, but.
Can I ask a question, seeing how we're at $6,000? And so again, when Mike and I were talking today, this would at least get us through the end of the year and we could start looking in May, June and see where we're at. And then if we're seeing that there's an issue where the 6,000, we might, like I said, I might be able to cover it within the budget if our call force amount isn't utilized, but then I think there would probably be some other funding sources potentially then as well, right? Because you'll be looking at the new budget and.
Yeah, I mean, we had all discussed, I don't know if everybody agrees, but the discussion was that in the springtime, we would potentially revisit override discussions.
Yes, sure.
So
you know, perhaps what could be done is a specific override. Andy and I had talked about this kind of fairly early on about splitting. And I think he even mentioned it at the town meeting, splitting it up and allowing folks to decide what it is that they want. And if, we could potentially put an override amount on just for the fire department and let the citizens decide. I mean, any number of ways to attack this kind of develop the more time that you have to work towards it. So a number that small, so long as, so long as we can negotiate with the union to ensure that we can keep the overtime in a manageable number, and he can do option one, it gives him the coverage. It's not ideal, but it gives him the coverage that he wants between the two choices. If we can get a good deal with the union, we can save the added position, and it buys us time to work towards the spring and a potential override request as we move into actual budget season for ATM.
One thought down here for the $10,000 number that Peter and I were talking about was if we reduced, I know you guys just voted on it, but if we reduced the procurement consultant from 50,000 to 40,000, you're able to take 10,000 out of that.
When you're talking about using free cash for the budget, Andy?
Yeah.
No, if there's one message we got from the town is we don't use free cash for the
Well,
budget.
we're spending free cash on garage doors. We're spending free cash on.
That's not the budget.
It's not the operations budget.
I just, given that there's been a lot of rhetoric and excitement about, whether or not, as we sit here and we make these recommendations and decisions, whether we're doing the right thing, and a lot of people questioning, how could you knowingly authorize something and not have identified the funding source? So I'm just trying to plug that little gap tonight, because I don't want to be hearing about it, wherever on social media, saying that the fire chief presented them with his best judgment and said, I think I might be short by this much. So I would like tonight to have a plan in place to plug that little gap. That's all.
So the other option is we could, Linda, we could take a look and see what the actual revenue from, new revenue for the ambulances. Cause I'm not sure where that is right now.
I think we need to do this by next Thursday.
Not necessarily if we just put these pieces together, but you had put in that, I think it was what I told you, I think we had 25,000 to put from the revenues so far. Come May.
Right, correct.
There'll be that much more, so we could grab it at that time to apply to the 26 budget. So
that's what I was.
we're just kind of putting, it's
So the 20, is it 20 written in there?
we probably have close to
We have
25.
over 25, but again, that has to be voted at town meeting, so that would be in May, correct?
Yes, this one could be voted now.
It could be.
Yeah, but what
We'd
we
have
have
to-
20, or we can wait and do the whole thing. But
Would do,
it's not as if it can be used for anything else.
correct.
So,
Go to fire.
yes, so there's no question that the special revenues collected from ambulance have to be applied to this budget.
But I think we're setting ourselves up for the same thing we did with the override by saying, oh, we'll just ask the voters at Springtown meeting to fund it. I think as a concrete plan, like Molly mentioned, we should ask to do a reserve fund or finance reserve fund transfer in the event we cannot get that money at Springtown meeting. So that way we're not left saying, hey, we have no way to fund this. We got to lay somebody else off now to go and pay a $10,000 bill. I mean, ideally, yes, we take it out of ambulance revenues or some other funding source, but at least if we can get that approval from the finance committee, worst case, we have somewhere to go to get it.
I agree with that.
And you wouldn't have to worry about that until after Springtown meeting, which is in May. So you still have like, there's still a whole nother month to the budget cycle, so you wouldn't even have to make that decision until that. And again, time is what we're working against here. So the best course of action that we can see is to prepare, to finish the FY26 budget with this town meeting. And then begin to build our 27 budgets. And unfortunately for Linda and I, we're probably going to have to build two. One, if we don't get an override, and one if we do. And unfortunately, the one if we do, we'll be building based upon a number that we don't know what it is. So it'll probably be closer to 3.
I think we should consider, I know we don't like this concept, but having an override meeting amply before Springtown meeting. So you know what we're going into. Either the town says, yes, we're willing to fund the fire department, or no, we're not. And then we have a budget.
You could, the town clerk has suggested this multiple times. She said it to me in the past. You could put a non-binding question out at any point, I believe, I don't know the exact rules to it, and ask people anything you want. You can ask them, do you support X amount of dollars to fund a full-time 24/7 fire department? You can ask them and get the answer to that question. And we could probably get that done before the springtime. The question is whether or not folks will come out in the droves that they've been coming out when there's something on the line. I hope that we could do that. I think it's a great idea. I think it's something, it's a good way to
Take a pulse.
Take a pulse and not have to have that type of a meeting.
But to your point, we need participation.
Yes.
Equal to what we would get at town meeting. So that could be interesting. I think it's a good idea. I just hope that the townspeople realize that this is the opportunity to really get their voices heard so that we can do something with the budget that hopefully will appease them.
How much money is in the select board kitty budget or whatever it is, what we're calling it?
Kitty?
What is that total?
Oh, kitty?
What would you call it? How much money does the select board have? You gave money towards raises, the stipends or whatever. How much does the select board have left?
Left. I have line to 122, Linda, I think is what he's asking.
Right, the balance after this vote is about 50. We have these other issues out there about whether it might be used, but especially since we have a couple of highly paid unsettled positions, but we're starting with 50, which is less than what you have much been added to your reserve fund, which is why I think also it's a good idea to start with the reserve fund, because that's not been committed yet either. And we started out with 20. And I don't think anything was spent in FY25, 0.
So since you guys have more money than us.
And we want to support the fire.
How much? We need $6,000.
Again,
10 will be on.
We understand without overtime.
I think the first thing is, are we willing to approve the options that I gave you that are in green? Because then we're gonna have to get it onto, we're gonna have to put it as on town meeting to move the funding that we have from the ambulance revenues. Is that one of the items on the spreadsheet with from the first?
You mean for annual or for special? Annual.
Annual, I believe, yeah.
So I think that the select board would approve the budget process, but the staffing.
The staffing is different. I'm just saying, because, well, I mean, again, if they don't agree with the way we're proposing to fund it, then I'm gonna have to, it's gonna be more people that we're gonna be.
Right.
So that's why
I just feel like, again, the linchpin of this is the bargaining with the union.
And I believe what Mike is saying when it comes to the fact that the union wants to save as many jobs. The job that they're going to end up with is not the job that they signed up for. It's not the same shift. It's not the same schedule. It's not the same anything really. We hope that we can get past this and resolve this issue. But again, time is our enemy in this situation. And so with a number that small, again, the linchpin is the bargaining and being able to keep the overtime down. But with a number that small, I don't know that we have to haggle over this. We have to, it doesn't really matter at this point where it comes from. I just don't think a number that small is going to be something to argue about.
Okay, so I move we accept Fire Chief's proposal here for how he's going to run his department and budget. And there will be 2 layoffs in this plan, but otherwise, all the other firefighter EMTs will be kept.
With the caveat that we still have to bargain this, so.
Assuming the
We
bargain.
could be coming back.
All right, that's my motion.
Which is why you want an option. Right.
Okay.
I mean, if they're truly about saving jobs, then they should want to come to the table. That's what it amounts to. Second, Jane's motion.
Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
And do we need a motion on the staffing plan separately from the budget?
No, that's its job.
Make it work.
What's that? Great, thank you.
Right.
Okay, what do we have left here? Town administrator's report. What have you been up to? You got it. I'm sure you've been. What you been doing?
There's no real changes except for the items in blue. And really all that is, it's Lauren doing more work.
Mike, could you use the mic?
Sorry. So the changes are in blue. If you want to look at the form, but I'll read them off to you. HR is looking at 3 different things to help us save some money. We are researching some early retirement incentives. The first step in that is determining who actually qualifies for early retirement. So we can't just simply say, oh, this person's, been here for 25 years. Let's see if they want to retire. We have to find they have to meet the qualifications, the minimum qualifications. And then we have to talk with the retirement board to see what it is that they would be in favor of when it comes to incentives. We can't make our own decisions and say, we'll give you 3 years or we'll add 3 years to your service or things like that. We have to work within what they're willing to do. So most likely these would be stipend offerings, but we're still looking more into that. We are also looking into incentives for what other communities may have done in the past for voluntary layoffs or resignations, whatever you want to call them, or opting out of our health insurance coverage as well. And then the last bullet point is something that we already did tonight, which is accepting that 32B, the MGL, so that we can more thoroughly investigate switching to health insurance coverage. I do just want to throw out there, based upon what I've been learning, and I have been in contact with our legislators. Senator Comerford is extremely engaged in this process right now, trying to help with a solution. We are likely to not do much better in the way of premiums, but the security of the health insurance would increase exponentially. So that's what those are the three heavy lifts that we're doing right now on top of this. So that's what I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Do we have any liaison reports? Do we have any announcements? Oh, Molly did not do her homework. Okay. That's all we have on the agenda. You have a motion?
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna second it.
To adjourn.
Well, we gotta close out too.
Motion by David, second by Molly. All those in favor? Aye.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the finance committee meeting. Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Peter, all in favor.
Aye.